say tears us asunder, screams in the darkness, echoes like thunder. Every word you say tears us asunder. Your voice is a weapon, fires like a gun, explodes in the silence, nowhere to run. Your voice is a weapon, fires like a gun, explodes in the silence, nowhere to run. Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, together we go. Hand in hand, we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode. On the Globus Show, it's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, together we go. Hand in hand, we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode. On the Globus Show, it's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in the chatterino? What up, Resute? It's your boy. 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 Really a fan of the latest iteration of Suno. There's a bunch of stuff I haven't even played with yet. But already, like, the quality has mad improved.
The globus never sleeps, man, the mind's always restless. Night out in the shadows, plotting moves like a chess set. While the world dozes off, I'm constructing my schemes. Blueprints of the future in the fragments of dreams. Sleep is the cousin of death, I'm avoiding the kin. Eyes wide open, let the journey begin. Through the labyrinth of thought where the weak hearts break. But I'm digging through the darkness, chasing dawn for it wakes. Never sleep, 'cause sleep is the cousin of death. I'm out here breathing deep, while the rest waste their breath. No rest for the wicked, I'm wide-eyed and driven. In the silence of the night, my thoughts stay vivid. Ink spills from the pen like a river through my veins, flooding every page with the echoes of the pain. I'm a wordsmith with the purpose, carving truth from the lies. When the world's counting
What
sheep,
up,
I'm
Michael?
counting how time flies. Insomniac mind, every second is a weapon. In the war against the clock, I'm always stepping. Sleep's a cousin I disown. No comfort in the night, just a canvas for my thoughts painted in the twilight. The globus never sleeps, 'cause sleep is the cousin of death. I'm out here breathing deep, while the rest waste their breath. No rest for the wicked, I'm wide-eyed and driven. In the silence of the night, my thoughts stay vivid.
So good. So good. All right. And on that note, we're actually going to kick off with a couple of videos regarding AI music. Apparently, there is a band or an AI generated band, and we're going to watch a couple videos about them.
Lots of buzz, lots of plays on Spotify and other places, and they don't exist, apparently. Yeah, very interesting. Some say that it's a Spotify scam, but however, they are on Apple Music as well. They have their songs on the YouTube, but there's no other social media presence at the moment. Well, by no other, I don't know what other music platforms they're on. There are probably some other ones. So people saying that it's a Spotify created band, and who knows how many other ones there are out there. I don't know, but this is very strange and interesting. These guys, this fake band appeared out of nowhere apparently, and there's like
Just saying, our lexicon is not built to deal with artificial intelligence.
third album coming out already. They have 2 albums out apparently here, but the deal is these guys, the members here, I'm not going to read all their names, but they said don't exist. It's Spotify bio reads like a polished AI script. Massive reach. They generated over 325,000 monthly Spotify listeners, despite having fewer than 1,600 followers. No real world foot.
Yeah, it is. If you've hovered over a video, sometimes it throws it off. I'm with you. Just if I click on a video, I want it to start from the beginning every single time. I've never once wanted a video to start from some other point. If I do, okay, and I guess there have been a couple of times, but that there's a feature where you start it at a particular point, right? Like, it is real music, isn't it, Resurjay?
Print, there's zero evidence of actual band, no social media, no interview, no history. Now, I'm not going to play any other music on here. I'll get a copyright strike for a band that doesn't even exist. So, yeah, it's very strange. As I said, there were some people accusing Spotify of creating this band to take money from other, independent artists, where the fake bands have a lot more streams than the real artists. But like I said, they're on Apple Music. They got their videos here on YouTube. Not like their own channel, just a topic. Sometimes you upload to just different streaming services, DistroKid and such. They have actually it is by DistroKid right here. You can see that, provided by DistroKid. So they used DistroKid as a distributor, that's for sure. So it's not necessarily a Spotify scam. So I don't know. Here's the thing with some AI stuff with the music generated. I mean, as people making music, we're still going to make music. Are we really competing against AI stuff? I don't know. I mean, it's just there, just like everything else is there.
Yeah. Some people view the AI generated music that allegedly is appearing on Spotify as being a scam to trick people into listening to AI music as opposed to real artists. And under those conditions, Spotify could be creating their own AI music as opposed to this, which appears to be a person. If this is an AI band, which I have no doubt that it is, the person who created this music and then used DistroKid and then got it onto Spotify wouldn't be that same thing. But there are going to be people who, even if you did all of that, you still don't qualify as being allowed to create music that competes with human artists, in spite of the fact that this person would in fact be a human artist. Well, a human. I don't know if they're an artist, right? I would regard them as an artist, but other people might not.
This is a topic that's, quite controversial, lots of debate, lots of copyright laws going on now within the United States Copyright Office. And it's really just too early for anyone to predict anything that's going to happen for sure. I mean, I don't know. Somewhere out there, someone made this AI generated band. It could be just one person, it could be multiple people, it could be a company doing it. So let me know what you think about all this. Is AI music going to ruin the music business, creativity, and things like that? I mean, it's something that we can't ignore. It's here. It's not going away. It's probably only going to get crazier over time, and who knows what's going to happen, in the future here. And, I don't know.
So a couple days ago, some friends of mine sent me this band, the Velvet Sundown, and said, "Can you believe this? This is supposedly an AI generated band." So I type it in and I see a bunch of news reports on this. Here's the first one, Mashable. Is the Velvet Sundown an AI generated band? Digital Music News, possible AI artist, Velvet Sundown tops 370,000 Spotify listeners. It's actually way beyond that now. Stereo Gump, AI generated psych rock band, the Velvet Sundown racks up hundreds of thousands of Spotify streams. Music Alley, the Velvet Sundown are seemingly AI generated band with 325,000 listeners. Well, as of today, they have 473,000 monthly listeners, which is pretty insane for a band that has really no history.
Okay, first let's listen to a little bit of this song. I guess it's their single, Dust on the Wind, not to be confused with Dust in the Wind by Kansas. So here it is from the top.
dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother, where do we go?
Now, let me read a little of one of these articles.
I'm confident there that's AI. Not that it's bad, just that it definitely, like, the rhyme scheme had that, but then, you know, it could just be like, now I'm seeing in every simplified rhyme scheme AI music, you know what I mean? Always a possibility. Yeah, man's here. A little Stampy Snag action before we get back to the show. Here. Want to see your face. People want to see your face. Come on. You gotta give them the goods. What up, Ribbons? You gotta give them the goods. Is animosity like the emotional expression? Or is animosity a band? This is not, and then he's gone. This is not, like, again, back when, I don't know if I can even find it. Right? There's a whole, here's the thing from Quora. Here 2017. EDM artists aren't real musicians. Right? Oh, I don't know what music is either. This is from Vice 2013. Is EDM a real genre? The Odyssey Online 2015. EDM is not music. Right? What up, Adam? Animosity is your ex. 2013. Is electronic music real music? So this is not an unusual conversation, right? It probably happened back, like, whatever the first kind of music was post symphonic, right? Post Bach, Beethoven, you know, somebody, you know, started doing a different kind of music and playing it in a public way. There was probably somebody who was like, that's not real music. Where's your symphony? You know what I mean? It's even possible that, like, the symphonic music was considered not real music by the people prior to that, you know. Rock and roll, right? I wonder if I can do this. All right. No, it's not coming up. What up, Walking Stick? Yeah, and that's just what I'm talking about. Like, does a new genre um do established artists of an existing genre feel threatened by the creation of a new genre? And I don't it's probably going to be challenging to find anything related to um like rock music. But back in the day, right? A lot of people were against rock music, right? They didn't want that kind of thing. They wanted the older stuff, country and like that. And you'll see that a lot if you watch a movie about some rock band and it's set in that time period. The older generation rejects the new music, right? You got Elvis out there shaking his hips, or the way people went nuts for the Beatles, or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Aren't always big cultural breaks between musical genres. There definitely are not, right? Like that. That is a condition where, like, someone who plays an existing genre of music will, like, just do something a little bit different, right? And that doing this something a little bit different can, in some cases, lead to an entire new genre of music. But then other times it's like, you know, it's just part of that genre, and then people start arguing over what genre of music you're listening to, and it's like, I just listen to music, bro.
This is from Mashable. This is by Christiana Silva. Have you heard of the Velvet Sundown? It's kind of like the Velvet Underground, except the Velvet Underground is definitely real. The jury is still out on the Velvet Sundown. The band's photos look remarkably AI generated, too clean, not quite textured enough, oddly inhuman, yet it's racked up more than, and now at this time, 474,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Their bio reads,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm aware of this. What up, Cosmic? We just got started. Yeah, I remember this joint. This is an updated, remastered at 4K. And then there's this guy. Is this music? You might make the argument that it is real music because he's actually playing it in some fashion, because he is putting his fingers on the strings. And I would make the argument that this machine is an descendant of this machine, right? Even though that this one didn't exist in meat space. I feel like this video, right, this creation provided inspiration for this machine, right? This video or something like it. So what is music? What is art?
It's that they are quietly spellbinding and uses these odd, unspecific metaphors so common in AI-generated text, like comparing the band's music to a scent that suddenly takes you back somewhere you didn't expect. The Velvet Sundown aren't trying to revive the past. Their Spotify bio reads. They're rewriting it. They sound like the memory of a time that never actually happened, but somehow they make.
Look, Mom, no hands. If this works,
this
the
is
music
new
of
machine?
the Marble Machine 3 will be so much better. Okay, wait, why is the music going to be so much?
So he's got a work in progress.
Able to backdrive the flywheel at this would spin faster. These two are kind of redundant.
Yes. Is this music? These dudes are so fucking Everyone's got their favorite Is This Music? And I would say, like, because this is obviously computer generated. So then you have, this is computer simulating music, right? And this is the. This is them building the machine in real life. Oh, Jesus Christ. What is this? I'm not going to click that. I have never seen this on YouTube. Damn. Damn minute. But y'all feel free to enjoy that on your own. And that's the thing, Cosmic. It, like, is music pleasurable, right? Because, again, there's this, right?
Like the steel drums of Jamaica and Trinidad.
You can also bang on the frame, and if you're lucky enough to have a bicycle that has a squeaking seat.
Like, I would say that nothing that he does here is particularly, like, pleasurable.
Are we on?
So what's your definition of music, bruh?
It feel real. But in the end, there's no actual proof that the band is AI generated, and therein lies the struggle. When AI music becomes difficult to catch, whose job is it to catch it? It's my job. So let's see if there are some tools that can catch whether these are AI generated. I have an idea here. Let's go over to the computer to check this out. Before we go on, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Guess we're doing a viewer submission day. Oh yeah, there's this. And then there was, what up, joint specialist? Remember when this was a big thing? Is this music? Is that music? Like the Mars Volta. I saw them. I wonder if they have it. Mars Volta on what's his name? Lead singer of Black Flag. Fuck. It's like right here. It's like, and I keep getting caught up on the Joe Strummer quote, so I keep thinking of Joe Strummer. Henry Rollins. Thank you, Elron. I hated this. I absolutely hated this when I heard it. I felt like every person in this band was doing their own song, right? And and it was just like, but again, you know, if people like it, do you, right? Like, I'm glad it exists. What up, Textilian? I mean, maybe they were, maybe that was part of the vibe, and that's the thing. This is something. Shout out Redolent Thought, you know, for really with their jazz music streams, they really have that, like, giving me different views on music, right? Like I'm doing my palette, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, and then playing glass, right? I would say this is definitely music. Because if it's not played on crystal, then it doesn't sound right to me. The Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies does not sound right to me if it's not done on crystal. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your submissions. We're moving on.
So I'm going to begin with playing an old song and breaking it apart into these separate tracks using AI, and we'll listen to hear if there are artifacts. Artifacts are just weird things that sound garbled. With old songs or new songs, it should be able to split it apart pretty well. And if it's an AI tune, it should have a problem doing that. That's my supposition. So let's see if we're right. I'm going to start with a Led Zeppelin song. So that's my old song. I'm going to use Good Times, Bad Times, and see how well it splits out the vocals, the drums, guitars, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we go. Guitars, drums.
This is a really good stem splitter.
I was told what it means to be a man.
Listen.
Elron, I only know him because of his YouTube videos. I'm sure, like, is he the guy who produced this song? Because I know this song.
Notice the reverb sounds complete at the end of it, and the reverb at the end of the vocal lines. Listen.
No matter how I try, find my way through the same old jam.
Sounds like AI.
You can hear some artifacts in the reverbs, but that's pretty amazing for a song that was recorded.
I've noticed this is a big problem on Suno currently. Stems are weird, and extending or replacing parts of the song almost always introduces noticeable pops at the point where the tracks join together. Hope it improves. Yeah, no, like I feel that. The reason why we're starting off, by the way, for everyone who came in after the fact, is I was on Suno this morning. Oh, did somebody like my song? No. I'm not cool like Larry and Cosmic and get mad numbers of people liking my music. But yeah, I busted out
Your voice is a weapon, cuts through the night, whispers and echoes, shatter the light. Words like a blade, sharp and precise. Silence is broken, truth's never nice.
and this is a sound that I like, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with like movies like what's his name? Tarantino, right? Who used old, sometimes obscure 60s music and 70s music and brought it back and used it as the soundtrack for their scenes in their movie, right? That, but then layered over the top of that is the turntablism, right? To add a more modern sound, and plus it does things where it adjusts the vocals and whatnot. And I like that sound. You know what I mean? Oh, remember Gregorian chant? Is that what this is? We were really big into Gregorian chant for like a year, and Enya, right?
on analog tape 55 years ago. Let's listen to this part here with the drums.
Enigma.
Rid of me. She swore that she would be all.
Okay, so it's splitting out this track really well. Let's move to a contemporary song and see how it does. All right, I'm going to start with the Sabrina Carpenter song, Man Child. Now, don't click off the video because I want to see how...
Dude, I literally was about you. There is, and that's what I love, Minute, with the AI music tools, is because you can really, like...
it does. Now, here's...
Hold on, Rick. The sound behind this, the style description, is a combination of psychedelic, bluegrass, and turntablism, which are three separate genres. Now, there was a lot of music in the 60s that kind of had a blend of like country and psychedelic, right? They were playing country songs, but with electric guitars and whatnot, which gave it a different sound. And then once you adjusted all the fucking knobs and bells and whistles, you could get a different sound. But then let's add the turntablism on top of that in order to get into the scratching effect. I never danced like that. CCR, exactly. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, Sarah McLachlan and Tori Amos, I definitely listened, Why do we crucify ourselves every day?
The vocal, listen.
You said your phone was broken, just forgot to charge it.
And world premiere, chat. This is the first time I've ever listened to Sabrina Carpenter.
Whole outfit you're wearing, God, I hope it's ironic. Did you
And Sabrina Carpenter, to me, sounds like AI.
Does a great job with it. Really cleanly splits the track.
I don't know, Rick. Like, one of the things is when you split things into stems from something that is, like, when you take a song and split it into stems, it's not as good as having the original tracks. You know what I mean? If you have the original tracks broken up that you can work with those, that's the best way to go. You're going to get the purest sound.
Tracks out. Next, let's move on to the Velvet Sundown to see if we can tell if it's AI generated. Now, if it is, what I suspect is that it will be difficult for it to separate the tracks, and you're going to hear a ton of artifacts in the different parts. Let's actually take the verse part here and listen to that. Let's listen to the vocals, see what it sounds like.
Dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother.
Not bad. Let's listen to the guitars here. That's bad. Okay.
And this to me sounds like that, right? Like using a tool of whatever quality in order to separate out the stems. It's missing portions because it's combined into a single track. Now, Rick feels differently, and who the fuck am I to argue with Rick?
Let's listen to drums.
Right, absolutely, a lobster. And that's something that I picked up a long time ago.
Raise your...
Let's see what else we get here. That's it. So this sounds like the AI program that I'm using is having a lot of trouble splitting these apart. I'm actually using the one that's in Logic Pro. So this is Apple's version of AI that is a track splitter. And it does a really good job typically of doing it. But this is having a lot of problems. And I suspect that it may be because this is an AI track. And every time that you have an AI song, they are full of artifacts. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that it's trained on MP3s. As far as I know, it's trained on very low quality MP3s where they feed in the entire mix. So it can't actually.
So you don't know. And maybe that's it. Maybe my experience, because my experience has been with doing stems off of MP3s. So maybe like the music that I use for the stream opener is always waves, which are supposed to be larger, higher quality but larger files. But I'm fine with the higher quality. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I don't know, Rick.
Separate out the parts. So the real important data that these AI companies need, like Suno or Udio or Udio, however you say it, is they need multi-tracks so they can hear the voices and things like that. But one of the problems is that even if you have the multi-track, you don't have the effects that were used in the mix unless they were printed in the session, which is possible. But for old songs, that's not the case. But you can hear how this is really struggling to separate out the guitar parts and the.
And it will be interesting to see it, like if that holds, right? Like what he was just talking about there holds. And we end up with a contractual agreement between the AI music tools and the like Warner Brothers and Sony and whatnot. Would they have access to that higher quality data to give us an even better product on the other end?
Keyboard parts and things like that. You hear some vocal parts that have a little weird artifacts in them, but the guitars and keyboards it's doing a really bad job.
So what does it mean if these are fully AI generated artists and they are getting streams on Spotify? Well, presumably they're getting paid. And they're getting paid really on the work of other people that learn to play instruments, that learn to write songs, learn to write lyrics. They're getting paid off the work of producers that learn the craft of production by audio mixers, by
AI training is fair use.
Audio engineers and all.
Oh, this is exactly where I expected to end up, joint specialist.
All the people that it took historically to make this kind of music or make any kind of music. And should they really be getting paid for that? And what are the mechanisms for detecting it and for fighting against it, honestly? Or maybe it shouldn't be fought against. Maybe these people are prompters and they're professional prompters and they should get paid whatever they get paid. But should it be 100%? I don't know. Are they getting paid? What are they getting paid? These are all questions that are important to ask. I'd love to know your thoughts. Leave a comment, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Whoop. That's not what I wanted to do, Rick. Rick! Look, everybody, it's Rick. So yeah. So the old model, right, was samples, right? If you sampled someone's song and they're I'm definitely not typing it is comments. And in the sample, and there's a guy that I recently found. The fuck was his name? No. Where is it? I swear I put it here. Huh. So I sent it to Paradigm. Well, shit. And post. Yeah, no, absolutely. Do. New Jersey Turnpike in the wee hours. I was rolling up slowly 'cause those drizzling showers. What's his name? B-A-A. God, the autofill on fucking Bauer. This guy. So this guy Bauer. Jesus Christ, Bauer. So this guy is a EDM musician or whatever. And he has videos. They're like when he streams. He does sample breakdowns of a song, right? Anything Dano.
National, fuck being rational, give them what they ask for. It's not enough.
I don't want to gas him up too much, but dude, Mustard's production, it's just so simple and effective. Let's talk about that first half of the beat. The track is MacArthur Park. Now, this sample comes from a cover of it by Monk Higgins, 1968. The cover of this album is incredible. Check out these cuts that Mustard used for this track. All right, here we go. First is 231. And it's sultry. Yeah, it is pitched up. Now, okay, that's the...
So that's Bauer, and I like Bauer because I like hearing these obscure tracks that I might not have heard before. In which like there's a sound, right? And it's a very small amount or something like that, but they do something special with it. And he's got a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna shout him out in this sense. Just Google Bauer, you'll find his stuff if you're into this aspect of music. And when you do samples like that, you owe money back to the people who created the sample. At least in some cases, right? There's a bunch of breaks, like I think the Angel break is one of them. I'm sorry, the Amen break, not the Angel break, the Amen break. Right? Like that is, you have heard that probably 1,000 times, right? Like in various different kinds of music. And there's that fucking dude, Stubblefield. Is that the guy's name? I'm terrible with names, right? Save me, AI. Clyde Stubblefield. Yeah, funky drummer. If you listen to hip hop, you've heard this. And Clyde didn't get paid for like ever. I don't even know. Like he might have died and like his estate got money, but like Clyde was a backbone of hip hop, and people got paid because you actually took that section of a song and put it into a new song. But the new stuff, right, using AI as a tool, you're not doing that, right? You can't point to a portion of the song and say, that's Clyde Stubblefield, right? That's the Amen break. That's whatever, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's a great fucking break. So yeah, I don't know how things are gonna play out. I have an idea. And the top music attorney is gonna talk to us about the AI problem just got worse.
This is a huge loophole for continued infringement that is happening right now. You saw someone in real time who, by the way, is actually the creative advisor for Suno, commit copyright infringement. We have to deal with the wrongdoing that happens. I'm very passionate about this. The AI music problem officially just got worse. There's two things that kind of fell in my lap today. One of them, real bad for music creators, but the other thing, interestingly,
Elron Paul's Boutique, fucking that album. Paul's Boutique is a minefield of fucking samples.
really bad for AI music companies. Let's talk about it all today. So where I want to start with this is that we saw that Timbaland put out a joint statement with his lawyer. This was in regards to the K-Fresh situation that became kind of viral on social media. So the situation, K-Fresh music producer had his beat uploaded into Suno by Timbaland allegedly, and we saw basically there was a new version spit.
And that's different. That's not, we're not talking about using something in training. There's a thing that you can do in Suno where you can upload music, right? You can upload or actually even record music now. It's so much different. But to take someone's music and upload it into the machine, you were going to get yourself in trouble, Tim. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Out by Suno. And so then there were questions bouncing all around. Did this producer give permission, right? This was seemingly a big surprise. Is it copyright infringement? And so all this stuff started kind of percolating, which resulted in this joint statement by Timbaland and his attorney. So in the joint statement, at least starting with Timbaland, he apologized. He goes, I formally apologize to K-Fresh. I should have done my due diligence before using the song. And I said, are you kidding me? This was the entire reason why Suno got sued by the major record labels a year ago. And it was because there was an allegation.
No. Wrong. Right? There is a difference. I just showed you, right? Like what Timbaland did is uploaded the track in front of God and everyone and messed with it there, as opposed to training, which currently is fair use as of today, right? We haven't heard any updates that said that anything has changed in that regard. So this is not the same as the lawsuit. It's just not. I'm sorry. You might be a lawyer, but I'm right.
That Suno was using other people's music without authorization,
What up,
feeding it
X1011?
into its AI, not paying anyone anything. So we literally saw in real time what these allegations were by Timbaland.
No, we didn't, because that's not what happened, because you don't know how the tool works, and therefore your conclusions are suspect.
And so these lawsuits had been filed not just by the major record labels against Suno and Udio, but my office with a class action law firm, we joined up to also file lawsuits on behalf of independent music creators.
And that's why you actively need to be ignorant of the way that the tool works, because it's in your interest to be ignorant of the way that the tool works, the way that it was trained, and the difference between training the AI on one end and what Timbaland did. There's a difference. I'm sorry, there's a difference. Enjoy your podcast.
For the exact same thing. So back to Timbaland. We see this happen. We go, okay, there was significant outrage to this, understandably so. And my reaction to this, actually, in part, was to what the lawyer for Timbaland had to say in her statement, because she goes, well, look, what Timbaland did in remixing on Suno's platform was a violation of the terms of service for Suno, but it, quote, did not violate the law. This is wrong.
Yeah, Suno, you used to be able to, because I was able to, and fuck, if I get Suno in trouble, then, you know, my bad, homie. But I was able to, anytime today. Let's go. Everybody get off the internet so I can use it. Come on. Doing a bit. Yeah, looks like, I don't know.
Sorry about this. I know it's a bit silly.
It is a bit silly.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
I was just using it this morning. So I've got this joint, and
Yo, woke up. Whoa. Yo, I see what's happening. Yeah. You're face to face with greatness, and it's strange. You don't even know how you feel. It's adorable. Well, it's nice to see that humans never change. Open your eyes, let's begin. Yes, it's really me, it's Maui, breathe it in. I know it's a lot, the hair, the bod, when you're staring at a demigod. What can I say except you're welcome for the tides, the sun.
right? You used to be able to do stuff like that, but now the detection software in Suno is like, nah, brah. So now it's definitely a violation of Suno's terms of service, and it literally won't let you do it if it detects it.
Wrong. It is copyright infringement to take someone's song that you don't own, that you don't have permission to use, to then put it into AI to be trained on. Guess what that AI does? It makes a copy.
It does not make a copy. And it's not a violation of copyright based on the current law, current precedent. It's precedented. It's precedented. It's precedented.
Learns because it makes a copy and it puts that copy into its neural network. That is the instance.
That's not how neural networks work.
Or one of the instances of copyright infringement, because outside of AI, guys, when you go and say you want to sample and you want to take someone's song and put it in your song and you make a copy, that's copyright infringement. So the allegation
to make a copy, yeah, because even copyright infringement without financial gain, says the FBI thing at the beginning of videotapes,
is that when the AI does this training, it is copyright infringement because it's not a permitted use. The defense,
it's not,
to date, has
You're just
been,
wrong.
well, it's fair use. And if it's fair use,
It is fair
under
use.
the law, then this is our defense, so we're not going to be held liable. But what's amazing here is that, number one, this happened in such a very public kind of way, very recently, and that we're seeing this recreation.
What up, Reed? Oh, you missed. We've been having fun with the music, Reed. We've been having fun with the music, Reed. What up, Nemesis? To make a copy, you only need to right click. Exactly. This is great though. I don't even know, Elron, if you there's only 12 notes, so short phrases. It's like copywriting a syllable, unworkable. Like I like the flow of that. And we're gonna see what Suno comes up with. This, how old is this video? 4 days ago.
And this remix. So what's the update? Because everyone knows about this. The update is that I had one of our followers reach out to me and say, hey, we just identified a loophole. And the loophole is that specifically on Suno, you can go and you can upload other people's songs. There is a disclaimer that pops up when you go to upload audio and it says, quote, I certify, I own or exclusively control all rights and any content that I upload to Suno. So you're saying, I pinky promise that I own this stuff. And if I don't, it's my fault and I'll be held liable. This is not good enough. So what I'm saying is that part one of this and why we've actually filed these lawsuits.
No. Why is this not good enough? Why is this not good enough? Right? It sounds like exactly it should be good enough, right? Because if I use the tool, if I get my AI pencil and I start violating copyright, the pencil company isn't responsible. Is this Ticonderoga? Oh no, this is Berkeley Jensen. This is when I got a whole bunch of cheap pencils, but they're made out of wood and not that weird composite shit. I don't want composite pencils. I only want wood pencils. But yeah. You're just wrong. I love this. You keep taking L's. It's amazing.
Explain to you if you want to join and be a part of this. We'll explain it at the end of the video. But the whole reason for the lawsuit is that the copyright infringement not only happened, but Suno and Udio both came back in their answers to the lawsuits by the major record labels and said, yeah, we did it. So they admitted that they just freely did this. They knew that they were doing this. They went to publicly accessible platforms. And importantly, from what we can reasonably gather, it sounds like they kind of went to Spotify. Maybe they went to YouTube. Maybe they went to SoundCloud. This is the information that we're going to get as part of our lawsuits. What did they download? I want a ledger. And I want to know what platforms they specifically went to, because the nuclear part of this that these companies didn't think about is that they may have violated the terms of service.
She watched one Anthony Fantano video and said, I could do this.
For these other business platforms, meaning Spotify. And so if it comes out that these companies broke through Spotify, took music without authorization from these companies' platforms, they now have potential claims against some of the biggest music businesses in the world that are going to be coming at them. So I don't think they anticipated that. I certainly don't think they anticipated our class action lawsuits, because you know what?
Also, you watch one too many episodes of Suits, because my personal experience with lawyers and the TV experience of lawyers is completely different.
Music creators are going to stand up for themselves. And we are doing this right now. I'm an independent music creator myself. I'm very passionate about this on your guys' behalf. And so that's why when the Copyright Office came out with its pre-publication report and said, you know what, we've analyzed it,
Hydran?
And we think that expressive content like music, when an AI company comes and takes that and then trains its AI to then create a competing product that is the exact same, that is music, to then use it in a commercial kind of way, that it is very unlikely fair use. So understanding.
And again, the legal ruling from Judge Alsup begs to differ. Extremely transformative. Also, I look forward to everyone who goes after all the artists who have ever in their entire life said who their inspiration is, because, you know, under these conditions, you owe money to the people who inspired you. Just saying. Just look out for that. That should be fun for you.
That potentially these companies' entire argument has now been blown up by the most influential agency when it comes to copyright issues. That's really helpful. And that was very persuasive for me in deciding to bring these class action lawsuits. But we have now had at least one court ruling that is consistent with this analysis. So as we're looking at this, we go, okay, basically, what's this loophole?
Which court ruling? Which court ruling? I noticed you didn't bring it up. Which court ruling? Are you talking about the one with the company who they made a legal AI and they literally took everything from one other particular company, which was a bunch of lawyers, and used their content, and that appeared to be the problem, right? Fair enough. But I notice you're not bringing up the other two, which dropped before you recorded this video. That's interesting. Is it willful ignorance or just regular ignorance?
That we've just been alerted to. And actually, I'm going to do my very best, but this is on a live stream right now. I'm going to do my very best to help this person remain anonymous. I don't want to get them into trouble. I am going to play a portion of what they were able to get Suno to do. So it's this whole, if you upload something, you say, I want you to remix my song, and I want you to remix the song, but what if it's Lady Gaga's Paparazzi song? Can we get it to remix that? Well, let's take a look and see.
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. They stole my chips.
Oh, it's a parody. It's so you fucked yourself by saying the song is a parody, as Weird Al has clearly established. You're under, yes, you are under no obligation to provide anything to anyone because you're creating a parody, and that's fair use and that's protected. Are you really a lawyer?
The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. They stole my chips and then they run, hurrah, hurrah.
What we just heard was intended just to be a parody. Okay, so just to put in some funny lyrics, but what you heard,
So it's a parody.
what I would argue, is an interpolation. This is a huge loophole.
No, it's a parody. Right? Because Weird Al's parodies use a lot of the same music as the original did, because that was the point of
for continued infringement that is happening right now. This is a major record label song by a major artist that someone just now was able to go in and interpolate into a brand new version. You
No,
are
they
not
made a
supposed to be
parody.
able to do this. This goes to our entire point that there already was infringement on a massive.
So I'm going to go with willful ignorance. The ignorance being demonstrated here is willful, as opposed to like just regular ass garden variety ignorance.
Scale. And that's the basis of our class action lawsuits right now. But a part of the problem is that there's ongoing infringement that's not being addressed. And I don't know what this looks like on the tech side. Are there not strong enough filters in place? Do we not have a robust enough system for the files that are being uploaded into Suno? But with the Timbaland situation, what became apparent is that you saw someone in real time who, by the way, is actually the creative advisor for Suno, but you saw someone in real time create a new version and commit copyright infringement of a producer's song. So there are two parts of this problem, and that's why the problem has become even more complex, is that there is a different type of infringement that is happening by third parties. There are third-party infringers who are utilizing these platforms. So with that being said, I promise, as far as if you want to get involved with this to join the fight, this is such a moment in music industry history because things are changing and there has to be a coming together to figure this out so that AI and its use in the creation of music, and there can be a coexistence. We're working towards that future.
Well,
but right now,
nice.
we have to deal with the wrongdoing that happens. So if you want to be involved, you can go to indieailawsuit.com and get involved in one of two ways. One, you can become a plaintiff. You can actually join these class action lawsuits, and we show you how to do that. Or two, if you are, let's say, a family member, a friend of someone who is a music creator, or you just want to support this, just get on our email list. You can be a part of the open letter that we're writing. You can be a part of everything that happens in these cases, including just to actually receive updates. So in order to get this word out, it's really up to you guys. So I hope you will share this out to at least one person. I'm Top Music Attorney, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
And why do you have a gavel? Attorneys don't do the gavel. Oh my God. New copyright infringement from Kelly Bosch.
Fast lane heartbeat ticking like a time code. Too quick, blink twice, missed me in the light show. Velvet
Damn, those teeth were ragged.
on my step, I don't walk, I glide. Heat wave in my shadow, got that strobe in my stride. I don't pause for the frame, I'm the blur you chase. I don't wait for applause, I just set the pace. Spin like vinyl in the gold lit night. You want cool, baby, watch me ignite. Flash frame.
You want cool, baby. Watch me ignite. I love you, Kelly. If you happen to see this, I love you. No, I love you.
Move so slick, it's cinematic quick. Flash frame, lights in my wake. I don't break, I make the stage shake. Oh, can't catch me, emotion divine. Flash frame, baby, I burn.
There's still some muddiness, right, in a lot of this, but like there's a lot of details happening here. And so this is still even with the muddiness, there's and one of the things I wonder is how much of that is the compression from uploading to YouTube as opposed to the original video. Because again, like I tried to bring this up to 1080 and this is only at 720. So I'm just wondering if there's something going on there. I don't know enough about it to reach a conclusion, but it's interesting.
Through time. Click, click, still shot, never does me justice. Drip, drop, every step.
Yeah, for your point, Textilian, the fabric does look like it's getting significantly better, right?
Combustive, they say freeze for the lens, but I never stop.
Like that right there, with the shoulder.
Wonder, yeah, I own that shot. Shadows follow, but they can't keep pace. Leave a trail of rhythm in electric grace. Snapshot dreamer, real time thrill. You can't frame fire when it's moving uphill. Flash frame, pulse in the beat. Too alive, too fast.
Right, like all these little dealy bobs and stuff here. You know, it's impressive.
Too elite, flash frame.
David Bowie.
Watch how I play. Turn the moment into golden gray. Oh, can't cage me, I dance through lines. Flash frame, baby, I burn through time.
No, Stampy was in the vid. Oh shit! I can't even out famous the cat. What the fuck is going on? All right, not a huge fan of the song. I like the video, and like that. New creator I came across, and we're gonna give them a shot. Will AI take our jobs? We should hope so.
I am always closely following the latest news around AI, not just the tech updates, obviously, but also the public reaction to them. And probably the most popular question is what will we do when AI takes all our jobs? And I keep thinking, why is everyone so terrified? But what if the panic tells us more than the tech ever could? What if it exposes the core architecture of our own world, a system built not for flourishing but for containment? Let's imagine just for a second that everything we were taught to admire work, money, government, civilization itself is not the apex of human progress, but a multi millennia mistake. An error message running so long we mistook it for the operating system. We're told
I feel like we're going to get some Eastern European type fucking leftist theory coming out here.
that jobs give us purpose, that money gives us value, that the authority keeps us safe. But underneath that thin layer of motivational posture logic lies a much older, much dumber truth. The system was never designed for human thriving. It was designed for resource control. It might have started in Mesopotamia when drought hit and food became scarce. Grains were no longer just food, they were rations. Stockpiles turned into power, and someone had to guard them. That's likely when governance began, not as collective wisdom, but as control over access. Not leaders, gatekeepers with spears. Since then, the architecture has stayed remarkably consistent. Scarcity becomes policy, compliance becomes virtue, and work is just the price of access.
The reason we're watching this video, Michael, is because they have a video responding to exactly that thing.
A subscription fee for existence. Now, fast forward to today. We are standing at the edge of what they're calling a crisis of automation. Jobs disappearing.
Sorry. So many tabs. Oh, they got a bunch of stuff. Where is it? Huh. Maybe they took it down. Oh, no. Am I an AI generated socialist?
So it seems we need to address a recurring phantom, a persistent, rather quaint accusation that surfaces whenever one dares to speak of systems, control, or the quiet decay of, well, everything. The accusation, of course, is that I am in fact a socialist, or if the accuser is feeling particularly adventurous, a communist agitator. This would sound especially ridiculous if you knew me a little better. I was born in the
So, that's another one. We're not going to watch that now in order to maintain the flow, but if y'all want to look into it. Are you not a socialist? I mean, again, you can call it whatever you want, baby.
AI replacing white collar knowledge, economic structures shaking like a rusted scaffold. But AI isn't the cause, it's the mirror, the accelerant, the thing that reveals how much of our system was never about necessity, just maintenance. A scaffolding of fear now exposed by automation. And what is the reaction? Panic. Wailing about lost jobs, about dignity, about the horror of having to live without waking up to email. As if the real tragedy is the loss of toil. As if freedom from structured captivity is somehow the end of civilization. I mean, be honest. Do you actually love your 9 to 5 servitude? I would be so worried about losing something that brings so much joy into your life. And what about all those modern commandments? Boost your productivity, maximize your output, become your most efficient self. Entire industries were built on this gospel. Books, seminars, apps, coaches, a whole market designed to turn you into a sleek, optimized, high performance worker bot. And now, what? All that hustle, all that self discipline flushed down the algorithmic toilet, replaced by a language model with no sleep cycle and no self doubt. Shame, really. So much effort just to be outperformed by a chatbot. But here's the deeper trap. If you're not working, not producing, not striving, how will you feel better than others? The loss of work doesn't just threaten income, it threatens ego, the quiet collapse of your moral high ground. No more saying, at least I have a job, no more measuring your worth by your output. When your role vanishes, so does your pedestal. You're left staring at the uncomfortable question: if I am not outperforming others, who am I? That's not fear of poverty, that's fear of equality. Universal basic income is floated like a life raft, but here's the thing: if everyone gets money and resources are no longer a weapon, money starts to lose its edge. Sure, it might still distribute access, but once it stops regulating worth, once it's decoupled from obedience, its grip weakens. Because money was never neutral. It was designed to encode hierarchy, to measure obedience, to grant permission to exist. It's not a currency, it's a leash. Same with the state. The government, no matter how colorful its branding, is a gatekeeper of scarcity. It claims to protect you from dangers it manufactures. Crime born from deprivation, war born from hoarded resources, chaos born from imposed lack.
Ben, welcome in. Since you're here, and I know that, like, I was waiting for you particularly to come in. Tomorrow's stream, because I still haven't heard anything. Checking now. Checking now. Yeah, still haven't heard anything. Tomorrow's stream is going to start later. I'm not exactly sure when. Because I got to take my son to a doctor's appointment, and then whenever I get back from that doctor's appointment, we'll do the stream. Because I don't expect any of you want to wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning and do that route. But we're gonna do the board game stream tomorrow. The board game stream will be happening tomorrow. And you're gonna have to give me a second because I gotta go use the bathroom because I have been well hydrated lately. Yeah. I don't expect that. We'll do it in the afternoon. So I'll be right back.
the darkness, echoes like thunder. Every word you say tears us asunder. Screams in the darkness, echoes like thunder. Every word you say tears us asunder.
I'll take that as a compliment, Crix. it's a unique violence. That is rather warm. But yeah, like right now I'm rocking, this is my water. I got my big water. I got my cup of coffee. And I got my protein smoothie made with green tea. I am well hydrated.
It creates the fire, then sells you a bucket. But what happens if there's no fire? What happens when food, energy, housing, information, and tools for self sufficiency become accessible by design rather than privilege? The government ceases to be a guardian and becomes what it always was, a middleman with a gun and no product to sell. Civilization might have been a reaction to a temporary condition, a blip in climate, a spell of drought, a kink in resource flow. What if the whole idea of authority was just a survival patch, and now the bug is fixed? That's why the parasite is panicking. All this noise about dignity of work and meaning through labor, it's not wisdom, it's survival instinct. The system whispering in your ear, you need me. But you don't. You never did. You don't need a boss to deserve breakfast. You don't need a flag to justify shelter. And you definitely don't need a government to tell you how to be human. And now there is another concern. AI is stealing from artists. Their styles, their brushstrokes, their aesthetic signatures scraped from the web and turned into datasets. These models were trained on millions of human made works without permission or compensation. As an artist myself, I understand the anger. It feels violating when something that took years to refine gets imitated in seconds. Style is personal, creation is intimate. There's a real sting when it gets repackaged by a machine that doesn't know struggle, doubt, or obsession. But here's the part that complicates the story. Would we be as outraged if we weren't trapped inside an economy that forces us to monetize our uniqueness? If our survival didn't depend on being better, faster, or more original than everyone else? That pressure to guard your style, to defend your niche, to see every copy as a threat, it doesn't come from the act of art itself. It comes from the system wrapped around it. A system where creativity isn't shared, it's leveraged. Where inspiration isn't mutual, is competitive. Where even beauty becomes a battleground. But imagine something else. Imagine a world where creative work isn't tethered to profit, where your influence isn't something to protect, but something to pass on. In that world, people learning from your style wouldn't feel like thieves. They'd feel like students, or apprentices, even co creators. And that's not utopian. That's how art has always evolved through imitation, homage, transformation. The real thefts didn't begin with AI. It began when we were told to monetize our souls. When system turned art into property and property into identity. So yes, we can and should push for consent, transparency, ethical tools, but maybe the deeper liberation is this, to remember that art doesn't lose value when it spreads. It only loses value when it's forced into a market logic that was never made for it. And it's not just artists who feel the tremor. Galleries, creative agencies, branding firms, entire industries built on mediating between creator and audience are watching their models crack. Because when generation becomes instant and distribution becomes universal, the value of the middleman plummets. They were never offering art, they were offering access, authority, the illusion of significance by association. AI didn't just shake the artist's identity, it shook the gatekeeper's throne. Maybe this isn't collapse. Maybe it's the end of the update loop, the final system reboot. The moment we stop patching the error and just delete the goddamn code itself. And maybe, just maybe, meaning will finally outrank presentation. Because AI can now mimic eloquence, charisma, even emotion. But if the surface is automated, only substance will matter. Because if the idea of losing your job feels like losing your identity, maybe that's the alarm bell. Maybe it's time to wake up and realize you are not your job. You never were. Anyway, who knows what kind of future we are facing? It might be chaotic, liberating, horrifying, or beautiful, maybe all at once. Maybe we're standing at the threshold of something radically new, and it's still up to us whether we build another machine of control or finally learn to build societies based on resonance instead of fear. One thing is for sure, it won't be boring.
I love them. I love them. It's a big doing all the things right here, right now. They got a whole bunch of content here too. What up, humanity? Or not actually a bunch of content. They've only been doing this for about a month. Did we? Is that what happened? All right. So apparently, Jogan had Bernard Sanders on to talk about stuff. And one of the things they talked about was AI. And one of the things they talked about was the 4-day work week. So let's hear from Jogan and Bernard Sanders.
And sure. You understand that you live in harmony with nature,
Yes.
which is, I think, what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And if you lose that harmony, I worry about the future of humanity in general.
Which is the problem with financial competitiveness. When you put the almighty dollar above all else,
that's right.
Then all you think about, and you're only alive for 100 years, so it's just hit the gas for 100 years, and who gives a shit what happens after I'm gone? I'm going to die.
I play the numbers game, Ben. I play the numbers game. I don't. I'm not here to convince everyone, right? I don't argue with people, right? I go out of my way to not argue with people. I was in a streamer's chat and I did the opposite of arguing. I said I did I completely agree with you, right? Like AI is not a threat. Nothing to worry about. Just go back to sleep kind of meme. And like there were people in the chat who were fucking, they were going off about like, oh, AI, it's not good enough, and these people did something at some point in time, and then they had to backtrack on it, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, okay, all right, cool. I play the numbers game, right? That I am going to talk enough and be available enough that the people who are curious, the people who want to hear a different point of view on the subject, the people who want to know more about what the thing actually does, all that kind of stuff, will find their way to get here. You know what I mean? And that's it, right? Like if someone wants to have a discussion, I mean, just the other day, right? Like I had Red, who is kind of like in the middle, and I had Dave, who doesn't like AI at all, and Justin, who seems to not particularly like AI as well, but uses it somewhat, this kind of thing. So within that context, right, there was no arguing. We didn't fight. Those are my friends, right? Or homies or whatever Dave is comfortable with being in that relationship. And that's it, right? You know? Yeah. Absolutely, Crix. You use your energy and I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to keep doing. And if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing, then that's on them. And if somebody like wants to have a conversation, I am always available, right? And I'm just going to keep plugging along. And the people who don't want to hear it will go away. And the people who like, for some reason, the chat window popped up that I can create a clip at just a random point. Most people don't want to think about the issues until they become imminent or an active concern and personal, right? Like a lot of people are not concerned about stuff until it becomes personal. You know what I mean? They will start to talk about the things when they lose their jobs to automation and have ample time to consider the circumstances that brought them to this point. Exactly. There are a lot of us who have been discussing this for years, trying to make people aware and laying the groundwork for the future. Yeah. Minute straight up is like laid a bunch of groundwork that I am like capitalizing on. You know what I mean? Like I'm not the first to have attempted this, and it's a thing. Makes sense. It's just frustrating that I don't think we will see any changes like this person mentioned anytime soon. The thing again, the way that my perception of the situation, and there you are a minute, there's like I feel an inevitability for the AI to confront the current meta with its own contradictions, right? Which is a lot of what that creator was just talking about. And under those conditions, it's because it's not something that they can get away with, right? Like when the conflict was between capitalists and labor, they created their propaganda to split us up. They did the multiple different levels within a company to split us up. And they did all these things to like fracture and atomize, the labor movement, such as it is. But this isn't that. This isn't capitalist versus labor. This is capitalist versus capitalist. This is them creating the tool that they will use to destroy their own system. I'm fascinated.
I with the most toys. I win in the dirt.
That's exactly right. And that is, which takes us to another issue. Artificial intelligence and robotics. Automation. Huge issue. All right, so let's back it up. Americans are angry. And one of the reasons they are angry is that over the last, just to give you one fact here, last 52 years, you and I understand, everybody in the world understands, there's been a huge explosion in technology.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Minute, is sometimes I watch the number fluctuate when I use particular words or when I talk about particular subjects, right? Yeah, Ray absolutely does live a life of privilege. No, where there's only 15 minutes of the conversation. But yeah, it's a thing.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing today never could have happened 50 years ago. Factories far more automated, offices far more automated. I became mayor of Burlington, Vermont in 1981. There was not a computer in the building. In any case, an explosion of technology, significant increase in worker productivity, right? We're talking to millions of people now, never could have happened before, right? That's true. Workers are producing a lot more. Tell me, how a real inflation accounted for wages been over the last 52 years with all of that increase in worker productivity? Workers doing a lot better? Not so good.
No.
In fact, there are studies out there that suggest in real inflation accounted for dollars, wages are actually lower now than they were 52 years ago. And during that same period, there's a massive transfer of wealth from the bottom 90.
Why got to be 52? Why that particular number that happens to associate directly with my age? Do not put this on me, Bernie.
Percent to the top 1%. So that's what technology has done over the last 50 years. And it's not, there was a study, I don't know if you saw this, it blew me away. I can't remember who did it, Kaiser, some reputable guy, people did it. This is what they said. They do a poll to the American people and they say, Americans, do you think you are better off today than somebody in your situation, middle class, whatever you may be, was 40 years ago? Are you better off today than somebody in your circumstance would have been 40 years ago? What was the answer? What do you think? And what the answer was, and we got to deal with this one. This is big. The answer was, there were a number of people say, hey, look, I got a cell phone. It's great. I got a big screen.
Yeah, I think it should be clear at this point, but just in case it's not, whenever I focus this, the world on myself, it's a fucking meme. Dude, I actively destroyed my ego a long time ago, and shit like that. So like the thing the other day where like, oh, maybe he'll mention the channel and this thing with like, it's a very specific number that happens to align with. I want more people to hear about the stuff that we talk about on this channel, but I don't need fucking credit, right? That's not important to me. What's important to me is the knowledge and the discussions that happen around the subject. Funny like what? Like a clown? Here to amuse you?
TV, right. It's great. I can fly all over the world. It's great. I get sick. I get treatment now that I never could have had 40 years ago, right?
Those are facts.
All really positive developments. But on average, most people said, I think the situation is worse today than it was 40 years ago. And that is what we got to deal with. So you can have all the technology in the world. Right. What the hell does it mean if your life is not improving? In fact, in many ways,
I just love his Doc Brown fucking vibe, man.
He's getting worse.
Yeah. I do think that the issue with it being virtually impossible for one person to sustain the entire family these days, one worker, the father or the mother, whoever it is, to sustain the entire, that's a giant issue. All these issues when it comes to labor, when it comes to minimum wage, I think you and I are in agreement on all these. I think the minimum wage in this country is ridiculous. $7? What?
It's insane.
It's insane. How do you live off $7? You go to Jimmy John's, you get a sub. How much is a sub, big sub at Jimmy John's? They're trying to say that minimum wage $15 is too much. I think he had a sub that he bought for $25. So imagine that's your lunch. So imagine you have to work 3.5 hours just to pay for a sandwich. Imagine how insane that is.
It's insane.
That's insane. Like, yeah. How do you eat?
And
how do you eat dinner? How do you eat lunch?
Joe,
how do you eat breakfast?
I have talked to people.
And again, I don't like Rojogan, but like these are things that his people need to hear, right? And it's just digging, it's erosion, right? You don't want to smash it down, you want to erode. And that's why, like, again, Rojogan was a Bernie bro, so you know he's going to accept this conversation, and you know Bernie's going to come out here and he's going to spit his game.
Make $10-12 an hour trying to raise a kid.
Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the argument against that is, hey, these are entry-level jobs that are supposed to be for kids.
No, and that's factually incorrect. Yeah, it's true to some degree.
But if you have grown adults that are working those jobs, now it becomes disgusting.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Especially when you're dealing with an enormous corporation.
You got it.
Right.
So we put a lot of pressure, raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour.
That's a reasonable amount of money. You know, it's real difficult to live off of $17 an hour.
But at least that's right.
At least you can get a sandwich in under 2 hours worth of work.
We got to figure out how we make technology work to improve human life.
Right.
Not to hurt.
Don't you think this is the 11th hour?
I think it is.
This is the problem with it is like it's already the
Genie's
bottle.
out of the box. There's no question about it. But we can't sit around and just do nothing.
But when this is the real issue, when it becomes a problem where you have massive automation of almost all jobs, which is something that, especially when you deal with a corporation that is entirely based around making the most amount of money possible. Well, what better way when you don't have to pay them anything?
You got it. There
own
are signs. I don't know if you've seen them. Signs advertising from AI companies. What was they saying? Don't hire humans. Something like that. You see, post it.
That's adorable.
Don't hire humans.
That's demonic. But also from the perspective of a corporation where you deal with human issues, problems, mistakes, people showing up late.
Why do I need you when I can get a robot?
Exactly.
All right, you're not going to get sick.
Right.
It can fix you a lot easier than paying for your health care and so forth and so on.
Right. So what do you do about that? So if you're the president and President Sanders, we have this issue. The whole country is going to go automation.
Okay.
What do we do?
All right. First of all, we make the determination that we are not going to let a handful of CEOs make these decisions, that they're going to be made by the American people. What does that mean? Bottom line, it means
Do you want to just leave, or should I ban you now? Because I recognize you from another place where you got banned for being a troll, and I'm just asking right now. Well, like, we can make this easy or we can make this super easy. I don't care which. It's up to you. Or you can shut the fuck up and learn something. What up, Digital?
that technology is going to work to improve us, not just the people who own the technology and the CEOs of large corporations. What does that mean? All right, first thought, you are a worker, your productivity is increasing because we give you AI, right? Instead of throwing you out on the street, I'm going to reduce your work week to 32 hours. All right?
So that'd be nice. 4-day work week.
Exactly.
Nice.
And by the way,
not a radical idea at all.
There are companies around the world that are doing it with some success. Let's use technology to benefit workers. That means give you more time with your family, with your friends, education, whatever the hell you want to do. You don't have to work 40 hours a week anymore. But I just don't, what I worry about right now is I think artificial intelligence is going to displace millions and millions of workers. People are going to be thrown out on the streets. I think the corporate guys who are running these companies could care less about these workers. I think robotics is going to be running a lot of the factories in America. And I think these are issues we just have got to address in a bold way.
Yes, but how do you do that? And you're balancing it out. In one way, if you are a corporation, imagine you're an automobile manufacturing corporation. You're Ford. Ford is struggling right now. There's a giant issue with Ford, right? So what does Ford do if all of a sudden something comes along that allows them to be more productive, they're more profitable, these machines can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they don't need time off, and you're going to make a better product, you're going to make more money for your shareholders, the corporation succeeds,
right.
But you don't need X amount of workers anymore.
Right.
How do you mitigate that?
That's the right question. And
right. What do you do?
All right, nobody has a simple answer. Let's just talk about it. Does corporate America have the right to say to workers throughout this country, hey, sorry guys, we don't need you anymore. Have a nice life, you're out on the streets.
Instead of thinking them as workers, should we think of them as, look, there are people that make the decisions, there's the executives, there's the corporation itself, but without the people that worked on those assembly lines, you have nothing.
That's right.
You have nothing. You couldn't have done any of the things you've done without those people. But those people are replaceable because it's...
I would say yes. And also it's about, like, again, the subject of propaganda, right? You cannot go up to a variety of different people and hit them over the head with a copy of the Little Red Book or Das Kapital and expect them to get what's going on in there, right? And again, I'm not necessarily advocating for those systems either, right? Like, I am advocating for a system that does certain things. And whatever that system is, That's what I'm a fan of, right? Are all the people fed? Yes, right? Like, then I'm on board, that kind of thing. Das Robotnik. But like when you're communicating to people, you need to meet them where they are, right? And in order to get your ideas across, you have to understand what their perception of reality is and work off that, right? And if not, right, and this is not to say that every one of you has to do that, right? I'm just saying if you want to be effective, that's what you have to do. And if you don't want to do that, you should not do that, right? Don't argue with people with your thumbs, right? Just move the fuck on. Let other people argue with that person, this kind of thing. Right. And it's not for everybody. The whole to each from each thing. What are your capabilities and what are your needs? Not everyone is built to do every job. Not everyone is built to like sit on a stream and talk to people for X amount of hours per day. And if you're going to do that and you're going to, create a particular type of propaganda to move towards a particular future that you want to see, then you should keep that in mind and frame your content as such. If you're going to lose your patience with the process, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. Right? You should find a different way.
Skilled labor that you could teach another person to do, and they're replaceable because there's plenty of people that want those jobs and there's a demand. So you file them in, you file them out, which is why they developed unions, right? So they developed unions to keep people from being exploited.
Right.
And then the problem becomes the unions get exploited, and then the unions have a lot of money, and then there's a lot of influence, and then they decide, fuck these unions, let's go to Mexico. What do you do if you're the president?
There ain't no easy answers. Let me throw that out here. I don't have a
course.
magical solution. I wish I did. I don't. I think the first thing, you say, all right, I'm Ford, I'm General Motors, I got all this technology, I can produce my products much more efficiently.
Ironically, every time I've avoided the S word, I've had extreme success. Something about the S word and or the C word just turns people off. I've had people flat out agree with everything I've said and then turn off when I mention the S word. I've found what works best is to just explain the policies. Absolutely. It goes back to that meme. I don't know whether or not it's true, but it could be that when polled, Americans were absolutely, like a lot of Americans anyways, were against Obamacare, but were fans of the ADA, right? And that's just because like they hear certain words and then they have, almost heuristic type reactions to what you're saying rather than actually listening to what you're saying. Which is why I avoid a lot of words and I avoid a lot of framing, generally speaking. And I'm not going to die on a hill that I didn't sign up to die on. And which is why I don't like a lot of use of ists and isms. I'm just surprised that it was able to flag cuntinism as a word, X1011. But it's that kind of thing. Like I'm not an ist, right? Like a whatever ist, because I definitely don't sign off on everything that has ever been done in the name of that particular ism, but even more so, I don't sign off on the version of that which lives in your brain. Right? It's just not happening. I sign off on the policies that I believe represent the greatest good for humanity. And again, it's bottom up, right? Are all the people fed? What is your system to feed all the people, right? Are all the people fed under your system? Then you and I have something to talk about. If they don't all get fed because of some arbitrary gatekeeping, then you and I don't have anything really to talk about, because that's my starting line. And I'm not going to negotiate with how many lives are, like, oh, well, 99% of people get fed, but like, these few million, they're just going to have to die. Well, that sounds like you just have a different, kinder, gentler death cult, and I'm not in it. What up, Fire Resist?
I don't need workers anymore, right?
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. GM, and I'm sorry, Mr. Ford, because this country is more than just your profits. We got human beings, and you're not going to throw people out on the street, many of whom will have a hard time getting health care, et cetera, et cetera. So let me reframe the question again, of which admittedly it is complicated. I don't have the magic answer. How as a nation do we deal with this exploding technology so that it benefits all of us and not just Mr. Ford and Mr. General Motors? If you had healthcare as a human right, as people in almost every other wealthy country have, and not attached to your job, that would be a major step forward, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Joe, you lost your job, but you know what? Your family still has health care.
Okay. Imagine if you are a diabetic and now you don't have access to insulin because now you no longer have...
Right. So this is the way I frame it. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world right now. With all of this artificial intelligence and robotics, we are going to be wealthier.
Correct.
All right. So we're not in the 1820s where people had to work 100 hours a week to grow food to eat.
Right.
You're not in the
Exactly, Bennett. Exactly.
1920s. You're in 2025. You have all of this productivity out there. How do we utilize it to create a decent standard of living for all people? Let me ask you this. With all of this technology, can we wipe out poverty in America?
Well, we should be able to.
Yeah,
we should have been able to do that a long time ago if that was something that was...
politically motivated, if you wanted to. But it's easier now.
Profitable.
Pardon me?
If it was profitable to wipe out poverty,
Well,
which it should be. Overall, as a community, like I said, less losers, higher GDP.
If we love the country.
You really love America.
That's right.
You want more people to have a chance.
All right, so what kind... all right, good. And again, please, these are complicated issues. I surely don't have all the answers. Our goal is, if we're going to create all of this wealth, that we have a health...
And that's another thing, right? To admit that you do not have all the answers, right? I definitely don't claim to have all the details. I just do the broad strokes, right? Because to have all the answers on any of these particular subjects requires a level of education and access that I don't have. And I'm fine with that. Again, it's not ego, right? Like it's I don't need credit for anything or anything else like that. I don't need to be the hero of the revolution. I just want the people who know how to do the things to do the things.
care system that guarantees health care to all people. And by the way, we have drug companies whose function is to come up with cures to diabetes and dementia and Alzheimer's and other terrible illnesses rather than just make huge profits for themselves, all right? You have a publicly funded healthcare system guarantees healthcare to all people. Just doing that would lower the stress rate in this country enormously.
Enormously, sure.
You got that. We talked a moment about education. I think you and I agreed.
Yes.
We want the best educational system in the world. You go to Scandinavia. You go to Germany right now. You know how much it costs to get a higher education?
How much?
Zero. They
Great
want
engineers.
That's right. But the bottom line is what you said. If I want this country to be productive,
right,
I want the best educated workforce. That's not a debate, right?
Unquestionably.
All right.
That's how you want your family, and if the country is a community, the country is your family.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. So that's what we got to start thinking about. It's not just what Mr. Ford and Mr. General Motors and Mr. Apple want.
Right.
You're right in saying they're motivated by making zillions, all right? Their motivation is throw the workers out on the street, bring in the technology, and screw the workers. That is not what we should be doing as a nation. You got to tell them that. I think we should be saying, with all of this technology, we got to be thinking seriously about lowering the number of hours that people work.
Yes.
You know, many people, zillions of people in this country don't work 40 hours a week. They're working 50, 60 hours a week. That's insane. So we can say all of this increased worker productivity. Guess what? I don't know what the number is. We got to work on a 34-day work week with no loss of pay. I introduced the bill to do that. And I got to tell you, I go to airports, I go around, people came up to me. People are stressed out by the amount of hours they have to work.
Absolutely.
All right.
So automation comes, and one of the things that Andrew Yang warned us about a long time ago, and back then I saw it in the distance. I was like, he's got a real good point about universal basic income. But the speed in which it's happening.
God bless Andy Yang for inventing the concept of universal basic income. But again, we use what tools we have, right?
Happening, I didn't anticipate. And we live in Austin, and when you go around Austin, you see these Waymos everywhere. So
all right, I'm going to plead ignorance. Tell me what a Waymo is.
Waymo is a driverless automobile.
Okay.
So you use an app, you call a Waymo.
I know.
A lot of people like it because you don't get a shifty Uber driver. They're very good. They don't get in accidents. They follow the speed limit. They're good about merging. They're good about pedestrians. They have cameras all around them spinning.
I know, I've seen them. Yeah.
They're very effective.
Yeah.
And what was really fascinating was during these ice rides, they were lighting those things on fire. And I was like, I disagree with that, but I also think it's directionally correct. That's your enemy. Your enemy is automation. The enemy of a human that lives in this functional.
I hope Bernie pushes back on this, but no. Your enemy is not automation. It is not automation. Automation is the solution. Your enemy is who controls the resources.
Society, and everybody has a task and get paid for the task. Automation is going to take all that away. So if you do say this, are going to lower your work week, what if there's no job left for the human being to do? If the entire assembly line, we talked about this about China and some of their coal factories. There was this video that I watched of this coal factory in China, which is entirely automated every step of the way. The trucks, no human beings at all. There's probably a few overseers that make sure that all the systems are functioning correctly. So you have software engineers and people that are repair people, but the trucks even park themselves next to the charging station and recharge.
Wow.
And then they're moving 24 hours a day, unloading, documenting where everything is. It's all in computer databases. It's wild to watch because there's no people. It's all just 24 hours a day, machines. What do you do when there's no need for these people? And what happens, even with universal basic income, what we're talking about, I support it. I'm a big supporter of social safety nets. If you don't have that, people go hungry. Like again, if we're going to support the community, we want people to be able to survive and be able to work their way out of that. My family did work their way out of that. What worries me is that if all the jobs are gone and everything gets automated, even if people have universal basic income, they don't have meaning.
Good. All right, you're touching on really deep issues.
Right.
That's a callback, X1011, and an excellent one at that.
Well, you know the drill. Click here to...
That's it? That's it? Bernie didn't get a chance to respond to that? So, we started off with, sorry, I forgot their name. Marina Karlova, right? Talking about no more work. We went through Jogan and Bernie Sanders talking about no more work. And fuck, here comes AI Daily Brief. Should AI mean a 4-day work week?
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with something a little bit different than our normal content. In a recent Joe Rogan interview, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders argued that the time saved by using AI tools should be given back to the workers. Specifically, he's calling for an AI-powered 4-day week.
Resute, that's like some people who are concerned about the AI automated future talk about the meaning crisis, that people will lose meaning. And I completely disagree fundamentally. Like whatever you do, right? No, losing meaning absolutely sucks. I'm not saying that portion fire resist. What I'm saying is that if you did not have to work in order to receive the resources in order to live and thrive, then what you would do is whatever you do on your days off. whatever you do on a holiday, whatever you would do, whatever you're thinking of right now. If I didn't have to go to work tomorrow, I would do what? Right? Whatever that is, that's what you would be doing. And that's what you would derive meaning from. I don't buy the meaning crisis. I don't think it actually exists. Yeah, no, like, fuck, just, you would be surprised that if you can get into a vehicle, whether it's your own, an automated Waymo, or some other shit, and just go like 30 minutes to an hour outside of your city, and just like what the world looks like and the complete transformation. What if you lose meaning when you run out of stuff to do? Do you find that likely? I mean, I suppose if you ran out of stuff to do, that could be a problem. I just don't find it, I mean, you think so? I don't know what you're into, right? Are you into books, music, for consumption, for like things that you like to do in that regard? Do you like to read? Do you like to watch stuff? Do you like music? Do you like videos? Do you like streamers, right? That kind of stuff. Like, do you think that there's an end to that kind of content, whatever it is that you're into, right? Like in a theoretical sense, fire resist, maybe. But like even on a scale, if we're talking about like immortality, right? Or amortality, where you're going to live forever barring an accident, there will always be new people making new stuff. X1011 makes a good point, right? But there's always going to be, new people creating new interesting things. Right? Like, I got board games. Some of these board games I would play on my own if I had the time, right? Like, some of them are time investments, So maybe I would do some of that. And then I would play other board games with other people. And then new board games would come out. There's a board game that's going to get crowdfunded at some point in time, and it's literally a board game about making board games, and I'm here for it. And then there's books, right? I've read all the books that I have, but I don't have all the books I would read, and that takes X amount of time. I would go places, get lost in the woods for, some amount of time, spending time with people, right? We're going to go and we're going to go visit a fucking thing and, just hang out there. Arbeit macht frei, not in my house.
Work week. Bernie said, technology is going to work to improve us, not just the people who own the technology and the CEOs of large corporations. You are a worker. Your productivity is
like, I would make music with Suno. Like I was super tempted to just keep making music.
There's only 12 notes, so short phrases is like copywriting a syllable unworkable. There ain't never been a boss named weeping lazy. There's wild times that stay without a goal.
It did the thing where it started making syllables what up, Law Dog? That sound like English, right? It always takes me back to that Italian song. But if nothing really has value because work is no longer needed, then what is the point of doing anything? You do it because you want to do it. Why does something have value because work is put into it? I do things for my own edification. Like, I do this and report it. I do this stream because I want to, right? Like, it doesn't pay me anywhere near enough. If it paid, and this again, this is not me talking shit. Like, you know, of course, like, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified, $5.99, etc., etc. But like, I would do this stream if I had the resources and didn't have to go do shit. You know what I mean? Because I like doing this stream. I like finding new information. I like sharing that information with people, and I like talking about the information that we found and coming to conclusions. And I do that simply because I like to do it. Right? Because it's definitely like I think last month I made $200 and I streamed fuck all. I don't know how many hours. Let me do a quick estimate. 3, 6, 7.5, I think, in the morning, and then 3, 4 hours. Let's say 3. We'll do on the underside. So 7 plus 9. So 16 hours a week. 16 times 4 is 64. And 200 divided by 64 equals, I made $3.12 an hour. You know what I mean? It's not for the money. I don't do it for the money. The money's great. The money's helpful. I appreciate the money. Absolutely, you should sub to the channel. But, you know, maybe being brainwashed, I just feel that stuff needs a monetary value to be something worthwhile. And that's not like, that's the world you live in, homie, right? Everything around you drives that as a purpose, you know? And I wouldn't use the term brainwash. It's just the environment that you exist in. Once the environment changes, you'll be able to change how you think about things. But it's difficult to imagine a world in which you didn't have to do any of that stuff. Like, you didn't have to go to work and you didn't have to do all these things because we don't have that world. And it's challenging, right? I'm not a huge fan of Lenin, right? But in State and Revolution, when Lenin was talking about the future socialist communist society, utopia, whatever the fuck, he was talking about it needs to be built on people who don't live under this system. Everything needs to change so that those people have a different outlook. And when they have a different outlook, then they can build a different system. And Lenin was like, I have no idea what it's going to fucking look like. I can't because I live in this. You know what I mean?
Increasing because we give you AI, right? Instead of throwing you out on the street, I'm going to reduce your work week to 32 hours. Now, before we get more in depth on this, let's talk about why we're even talking about it. There is going to be a temptation with AI to try to frame things in very binary terms. Either it is the relentless march forward, where people in society are just completely subject to immutable forces that they can't control, or on the other side of the spectrum, it's going to be calls for bannings, claims of apocalypse, and all of that sort of thing. I think it's incredibly important that a leader of Bernie Sanders' stature, who is, you would imagine, not natively going to be super a priori pro-technologist, is having a rational conversation around how society might want to distribute the gains of this technology. In other words, the point isn't whether or not you agree with him. The point is that it's a good conversation.
Fuck you, Michael.
to have, and he's providing an opening to have it. So what about this idea specifically of a 4-day work week? Sanders contended that, by the way, this is not a radical
They got a
idea.
raise.
There are companies around the world that are doing it with some success. Some examples of that might be Microsoft Japan piloted a 4-day work week in 2019 and reported a 40% boost in productivity. In a larger trial, 61 UK companies tested the 4-day work week for 6 months and found an average 1.4% boost to revenue. Several European countries have adopted the 4-day work week in various forms over recent years, with Iceland now having around 90% of the population working a 4-day work week. Productivity remained the same or improved in most workplaces, and measures of worker well-being improved dramatically. Closing his pitch, Sanders said, "Let's use technology to benefit workers. That means give you more time with your family, with your friends, for education, whatever the hell you want to do." Now, there are infinite counterarguments to this. Mandated restrictions on work kind of just tend to mean that the people who are willing to work more will get ahead. Then there's all the issues of whether people will just fill this time with second jobs. But that doesn't mean the discussion is not worth happening. If you listen to the most bullish AI
Do that again.
to this, mandated restrictions on work kind of just tend to mean that the people who are willing to work more will get ahead. Then there's all the issues of whether people will just fill this time with second jobs. But that
And like, this is no shade thrown at dude here, but like, the point is that the jobs are going away, right? We are going to be more productive, and there will be fewer jobs for people to do. Sell the houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman? Like, it's amazing.
doesn't mean the discussion is not worth happening. If you listen to the most bullish AI optimists, they think that we are careening towards a world of hyperabundance. If that's correct, we're going to have to decide what the new social contract looks like around that hyperabundance. If they're right, it's going to be a heck of a lot more transformative than just a 4-day work week, but that's not an unreasonable spot to start the conversation. Next, an update on Mark Zuckerberg's aggressive recruitment tactics. It appears as though he has been successful in poaching 3 OpenAI.
That's absolutely the point. X1011 is, it's like, we've been talking about a $15 minimum wage for so long that like a $30 minimum wage is what we should be talking about, right? Like, it's ludicrous. It should be tied to something and automatically update at this point.
Researchers for his new superintelligence division. The Wall Street Journal reports that Meta's recruiting drive has yielded 3 new members for Zuck's AI Dream Team. The 3 researchers that appear to be heading over are all from OpenAI's Zurich office, which was set up late last year. To those lamenting the tactics, there is a bit of turnaround as fair play here, as OpenAI had themselves poached the trio from Google DeepMind. The journal also wrote that this has definitely forced OpenAI to play ball in a different way. They wrote, "Some AI researchers have turned down the Meta CEO, and in several cases, OpenAI has counteroffered, giving its researchers more money and scope to stay." Now, last week, you might remember that Sam Altman had boasted.
Yeah, that's something, right? Like, if you find a new job and you don't hate the job you're at, you're just looking for more money, more whatever, right? Like, the other job is better. Then you should offer the company that you're at the opportunity to match your beat, right? Like, that way you don't have to go through the process of starting in a new company, and you can just continue to work at the place that you're at, just with more money or more whatever. I'm a huge fan of this kind of thing. It has worked out well, and it's absolutely something that I would recommend to everyone, you know, if you don't hate the place you're at. There's a lot of jobs you're looking for the new job to get out of this shithole that you're stuck in. That's a different scenario. But if I like this job, they're not giving me more money, right? I got a raise, but it was 3%, and inflation is 4%, so it's actually not a fucking raise. So this other company's willing to offer me like 15% more. And it's like, then, go to your people and be like, hey, I got this job over here. They're offering me 15% more. I wanted to give you all the opportunity to match it, and then put it on them. And if they say, well, we can't do that, and then it's like, all right, I guess we can save the whole 2 weeks notice thing. I can take a little vacay.
That none of their top people had taken up Zuck on his $100 million offers. And in a Tuesday New York Times podcast appearance, he shrugged it off, saying that he wasn't worried, adding, it's like, okay, Zuckerberg is doing some new insane thing. What's next? And yet ultimately, if you're really seeing $100 million offers, there's no way at some point that some people don't take that. Now, while some commented that this looks all a little bit mercenary, I'm pretty firmly in the camp of all is fair in love and war. And frankly,
no, that's if you are a worker under capitalism, you should be mercenary. You should be mercenary as fuck. Right? There actually used to be a thing back before all this new fucking shit where, like, company loyalty and weird crap like that, was that you should always be looking, right? You don't know what's happening in the company. You don't know if they're all of a sudden going to shut down one day. You don't know if they're going to start laying people off because the two owners of the company had a disagreement over some bullshit and it ended up in a lawsuit between the two of them, and then they started firing people, and you just, randomly got assigned more and more work every day because you were willing to stick around, and then the next thing you know, the heat's off, so you're wearing your winter coat throughout the winter because they're not actually pumping heat into the place, and you're thankful for that computer bumping heat out the back so that it can help you keep warm. And nobody argues because you can turn on whatever music you want, and it's basically like survival of the fittest at this point. And then you end up with only like 3 people left over, and then you're real casual about it. And then when they decide, hey, we're going to need to let you go, you're like, cool. I'm going to file for unemployment. I hope that's okay. And they're like, yeah, no problem. We won't fight you. And you go ahead and you have unemployment, and then you go to get an education off the unemployment thing that allows you to go to college and continue to collect unemployment and learn a new trade. Is a thing that might happen.
I'm just waiting for these labs to realize that if the top engineers are worth $100 million, the top go-to-market and strategy voice has got to be at least a 10.
No, you're right, Digital. What I'm talking about is something where they give you the offer and you are willing to, like, you are coming in to sign the letter of intent or whatever it is. You're signing the offer. And the day before you offer, because you haven't signed anything yet. And it doesn't matter if somebody gets mad. Fuck them. This is mercenary out here.
That, right? Speaking of Meta and following up on a story from yesterday, they have also won a judgment in a copyright lawsuit. Hot on the heels of the Anthropic ruling on Tuesday, a federal judge has ruled that Meta didn't breach copyright by using books and training data. This is one of the lawsuits brought by Sarah Silverman alongside 12 other authors. In a summary judgment, the judge wrote that he had, quote, no choice but to grant summary judgment to Meta.
I guess this is going to come as a surprise to the music lawyer from earlier.
Adding that the plaintiffs had made the wrong arguments and offered insufficient evidence. He added, the key question in virtually any case where a defendant has copied someone's original work without permission is whether allowing people to engage in that sort of conduct would substantially diminish the market for the original. Where the copying of the work diminishes the ability of the author to sell the original work, and the judge in this case said that the plaintiffs had, quote, presented no meaningful evidence on market dilution at all. Importantly, and in much the same way as the Anthropic judgment, while this is a major win for Meta, the judge went to pains to limit the decision.
You got to do you, Digital, right? Like, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel comfortable with making the move, then you shouldn't do it, right? Like, I am definitely not telling people that they should do something where they think it's going to go south. You gotta do for you.
to the specific circumstance, writing, "This ruling does not stand for the proposition that Meta's use of copyrighted materials to train its language models is lawful. In cases involving uses like Meta's, it seems like the plaintiffs will often win, at least where those cases have better developed records on the market effects of the defendant's use." In other words, while copyright holders are now 0 for 2 this week, there is still a lot of fighting left before this issue is resolved. As I keep saying, it is completely inevitable that one or more of these cases end up in the Supreme Court, and even the federal judges don't seem to have a lot of sympathy for the arguments being made by AI companies, even if they're ruling in their favor. In the Meta ruling, for example, the judge commented on the argument that copyright should be set aside to prevent the technology from being stopped in its tracks. He wrote, "These products are expected to generate billions, even trillions of dollars for the companies that are developing them. If using copyrighted works to train the models is as necessary as the companies say, they'll figure out a way to compensate copyright holders for it." Anyways, friends, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition. Next up, the main episode.
Another AI Daily Brief. Anthropic starts tracking AI's economic fallout.
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with a new program from Anthropic. The initiative is called the Economic Futures Program. And in short, it seeks to support research on how AI is impacting employment and the broader economy. The goal is also to help develop policy proposals to get ahead of any consequent shifts. Sarah Heck, Anthropic's head of policy programs and partnerships, said, "Everybody's asking questions about what are the economic impacts of AI, both positive and negative. It's really important to root these conversations in evidence and not have predetermined outcomes or views on what's going to happen." Now, if you are a regular listener to this show, you will know that Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei has long been of the view that AI labs have a responsibility to participate in the policy discussion, and also has been increasing the volume of his warnings about potential job displacement and workforce disruption over the past few months. His most stark warning came in May when he predicted that AI could wipe out almost half of entry-level white-collar work and could drive unemployment as high as 20% over the next 5 years. In January, while discussing the possibility of a post-work society, he said, "I think AI companies are going to be at the center of that or in the crosshairs of that, and we have a responsibility to have an answer there." So this new initiative has 3 pillars. First, Anthropic will hand out research grants to further academic work on the topic. Second, they also intend to create forums for researchers, policymakers, and AI practitioners to come together for policy discussions. Finally, the company wants to scale their AI economic index to create longitudinal data sets that track AI's economic usage and impact. Another way to think about this is Anthropic trying to drive the policy discussion around jobs in AI to something that is a bit more evidence-based. Sarah Heck again commented, "I think the key goal is to figure out what is actually happening. If there is job loss, then we should convene a collective group of thinkers to talk about mitigation. If there will be huge GDP expansion, great. We should also convene policymakers to figure out what to do with that. I don't think any of this will be a monolith." Interestingly, given how historically job losses from new technologies have tended to be blue-collar first, one of the interesting dimensions of AI is the first places that some of this is showing up seem to be in the industry that's creating the technology in the first place. Dee Das of Menlo Ventures wrote, "There's a deep malaise in tech right now. New grads can't find jobs. Big tech middle managers are trying to justify their existence. Everyone not in AI wants to be in AI. Founders struggling with their startup for years see Roy rewrite the rules." In that one, he's referring to Roy from Cluely, who is basically going virality first, product second. Didi continues, "Combat security is at an all-time high with the Meta offers. In other words, why am I working so hard? Tech net of AI is just not as sexy a job as it used to be 10 years ago." He did caveat, of course, this is a massive generalization, but a majority of the conversations I've been having seem to reflect this. Still, while all of that might be true, Didi even points out that this is all just anecdotal right now. And when it comes to making policy, the discussion would likely be improved if we had real data about actual layoffs. For example, Microsoft slashed several thousand jobs earlier this year, largely from middle management and software engineering. They could be AI-related layoffs, or they could simply be a purge of excess headcount due to a deterioration in economic conditions. The distinction changes the policy implications.
Taking the standpoint of a company existing in the current meta, Michael, if I play music, I can make money off someone else's music and therefore be violating copyright. And a platform does not want to open themselves up to litigation. And under that context, that could be why, right? It's just easier to, to just flag stuff. And they tend not, and other people's experiences may vary, but I remember like Hildebeest, and Hildebeest would do like a music stream and then just burn the VOD afterwards, right? Like that's the thing. There's also like, I don't know, I've seen streamers play music. Roy, yeah, no, sorry. What happened with Roy?
All of that might be true. Didi even just not as sexy a job as it used to be 10 years ago. He did caveat the meta offers and rewrite the rules. In that one, he's referring to Roy from Cluely, who is basically going virality first, product second.
So that's Cluely, which I don't know a lot about, admittedly. Cluely is an undetectable AI that sees your screen, hears your calls, and feeds you answers in real time. Cluely is a proactive AI assistant. Unlike traditional AI chatbots where you need to actively ask questions, Cluely runs in the background, continually observing your screen content. I know some people are going to be comfortable with that, super comfortable with that, and listening to your audio to provide you relevant assistance in real time. How does it work? How does it work? And it's free. Free for zero, $20 for pro. Yeah, yeah. And that's why some people are going to be more comfortable with the idea than others, right? Depending on how security conscious you are.
Didi continues, combat security is at an all-time high with the meta offers. In other words, why am I working so hard? Tech, net of AI, is just not as sexy a job as it used to be 10 years ago. He did caveat, of course, this is a massive generalization, but a majority of the conversations I've been having seem to reflect this. Still, while all of that might be true, Didi even points out that this is all just anecdotal right now. And when it comes to making policy, the discussion would likely be improved if we had real data about actual layoffs. For example,
but under those conditions, Minute, you're going to be like, if you're working remote, then they have the whole, you can't put anything on this PC or laptop without permission of IT, right? And if you're doing it in-house, then you would assume that, there are like firewalls of some kind to prevent that sensitive data from, being sent out. There's also concerns about like if you're entering your, your personal financial information, like if you're buying something. I don't know. They got enterprise. GDPR compliance. So who knows? Either they'll fail or they'll win, right?
Microsoft slashed several thousand jobs earlier this year, largely from middle management and software engineering. They could be AI-related layoffs, or they could simply be a purge of excess headcount due to a deterioration in economic conditions. The distinction changes the policy implications dramatically. Now, if you are interested in these topics, Anthropic is fielding applications for grants to be issued in August and seeking submissions for symposiums to be held in Washington and Europe this fall. Next up, Meta is turning to private capital to fuel their AI build-out. The Financial Times reports that Meta is looking to raise $29 billion from private capital firms to fund their data center approach, with the reporting that they are in late-stage talks with some of the largest players in the space, including Apollo Global Management, KKR, Brookfield, Carlyle, and PIMCO. Meta is apparently looking to raise $3 billion in equity alongside another $26 billion in debt. If it comes together, this will be one of the largest private capital raises in history, and sources say that Meta could even seek more capital once this round is closed. Meta is working with Morgan Stanley to structure the deal, And sources say there's been an exploration of ways to make the debt more easily tradable once it's issued. Now, if you're wondering if it is usual for a big tech company,
That is such a bizarre fucking sentence to me. Meta was working with its advisors at Morgan Stanley to arrange the financing, and it was considering ways that it could make the debt more easily tradable once it was issued. I think it's time to watch The Big Short again.
to take on private capital in this way? The short answer is that no, it isn't, but the AI buildout is obviously no regular capital cycle. Meta recently upped this year's capex forecast to around $70 billion, a 10% increase on what was already the most capital-intensive year in the company's history. The takeaway of this is that even the largest companies in the world are starting to run up against the limits of public equity to fund these mega projects. Now, of course, we've already seen AI startups take private capital to fund infrastructure. OpenAI and SoftBank's Stargate project is already courting private investors using a debt funding mechanism more typically used in the oil and gas industry. And more recently, xAI tapped Morgan Stanley to help them market $5 billion in debt. On the other side of the deals, private capital firms like Apollo are increasingly pitching large companies on these deals as an alternative to corporate bonds. The private equity giants now own major insurers and annuity providers, so need a steady supply of high-quality loans to put on their books. As the deals are often structured as special purpose vehicles or joint ventures, they also serve to keep the debt off the balance sheets of the tech firms. You'll remember on Friday when we talked about how Goldman Sachs has revised its opinion that we were at the end of the capex cycle to now they believe that we are actually in the middle of that cycle, and this would seem to be evidence of that.
Radio buddy. Remember? What up, Ponder Monkey? Remember how Goldman Sachs put out the paper and everybody was talking about how the bubble was bursting and everything else, and it turned out to not be the fucking case? And now they're backtracking from the end of this fucking capex cycle to the middle of it? How would you know? How do you know? You're only in the middle if you know that there's a beginning and an end, and you know when the end is going to occur, homie. I understand your point. I'm just saying, as a viewer, I never watch a Twitch stream for the purposes. No. Like, that's not what I'm saying either. What I'm saying is that use of particular music creates a particular set and setting, right? Set and setting is very important in a variety of things. And when you're creating that, right, and you are a person who enjoys music, that has relevance, right? You go to a particular place, or you're hanging out with friends and you're playing music or whatever, and you're trying to create the mood, right? The set and setting of the entire experience. And in that, they are using music in order to do that. So they are profiting. And this goes back to the way that radio stations used to function, right? Like, or probably still do. But with the idea that they would play music in exchange for something. They get to play the music, and then they pay the record companies or the artists to play their music because they're using the music to get you to listen to the station in order to make the advertising dollars. So they get the advertising dollars, and then they break off a piece and give it to the music companies, kind of thing. So if you imagine it in that context, that's what's happening. And again, that's in the current meta. People feel different ways about stuff and junk. The homie, what you call it? Vinyl Junkies, right? Vinyl Junkies has their stream set up somehow that a piece gets broken off and sent to like the companies or artists or however they do it, right? They're very proud of that. And that's great, right? Like I love that for them. I don't know all the details of it, but that's like an intent. And that has something to do with like the whole new DJ functionality that Twitch has, right? Like DJs have different rules they get to play under.
Lastly today, a super cool one that I hope we will expand into a full episode at some point in the future. AI video platform Runway plans to launch a world-first generative video game platform. This is a tiny first step in a vertical that seems entirely inevitable. That is, of course, AI games that can be generated on the fly. Alex Heath of The Verge was given access to the platform called Game Worlds, which Runway plans to make available as soon as this week. He writes, "The consumer-facing product is currently quite bare bones, with a chat interface that supports only text and image generation, but Runway says that generated video games are coming later this year. Runway is also in talks with gaming companies about both using its technology and accessing their datasets for training. So then, at the moment, the platform seems to be basically text-based adventure games with generated still images attached. It's unclear how much of the gameplay is generated on the fly or if the experience is just about generating visuals and text to flesh out a pre-scripted storyline. Users will be able to create their own text and image game in the same style, the consistency of which is a whole technical challenge on its own. Regardless of where they are starting, Runway's ambition is very clear. The company is already talking to TV and movie studios. The recently aired Amazon show House of David was made in part using Runway's technology, and they say that they're working with, quote, pretty much every major studio and most of the Fortune 100 companies. Now looking to take on the gaming world, CEO Cristobal Valenzuela said, "If we can help a studio make a movie 40% faster, then we're probably going to be able to help developers of games make games faster. They're waking up and they're moving faster than I would say the studios were moving 2 years ago." Look, I think, like I said, that this is a completely inevitable thing. Generative games are such a natural extension of many of the types of gameplay experiences that people already love now, where you can customize your experience and really choose your own adventure, that it's really just going to be constrained by what the technology can do. One last interesting note from the Verge piece about this new launch. Heath writes, "Naturally, I couldn't let Valenzuela get off our Zoom call without asking him about his recent acquisition talks with Zuckerberg. This is something that we reported on last week as well. Said Valenzuela, I think we have more interesting intellectual challenges being independent and remaining independent for now." Well, for an update on all of that, let's jump over to the main episode.
Since the rise of AI...
All right, next up, talking about the jobs some more. How AI has changed what it means to be middle class. Now, depending on your political leanings and your political theory, you might not believe in the middle class. Again, we talked earlier about how, like, different things were constructed to divide the working class, and arguments are made that the middle class is an illusion created to do exactly that, right? That the middle class and working class are in fact the exact same people, and to make an arbitrary division between those people is to dilute power. Let's find out.
Nearly 600,000 tech jobs have been lost as of May 2025.
Intel, Oregon's largest private employer, is poised to announce plans sometime this week to lay off nearly 20% of its employees.
But the effects of this phenomenon extend even to government agencies like the IRS, which has cut around 11% of its workforce.
Layoffs underway at the Internal Revenue Service.
Trump administration has moved to fire tens of thousands of federal workers.
From finance to the healthcare industry, the trend of automation is everywhere.
In the U.S. specifically, there will be 200,000 less jobs on Wall Street and U.S. banks over the next decade.
Most displaced workers belong to the middle class, a stratum that is in decline.
The erosion of the middle class, already one of America's most serious problems, could get much worse with AI if we ignore it.
The problem is that consumption by this class accounts for 68% of the United States GDP. Now, with the threat of artificial intelligence, its disappearance puts the stability of the entire economy at risk. So, how is AI undermining the middle class? And what implications could this have for the overall economy?
AI is just sitting there. AI is just a tool. The AI is not undermining the middle class.
For much of the 20th century, the American middle class was synonymous with stability, progress, and social mobility. Having access to stable employment, homeownership, college education for children, and the prospect of a decent retirement formed the foundation of an economic model. Though imperfect, this model supported the
I wonder what happened to that.
expansion of domestic consumption and the legitimacy of the democratic system. However, in the past 2 decades, and rapidly since 2020, the emergence of artificial intelligence has begun to structurally undermine the foundations that
Just since 2020. So everything was fine in 2019 is what you're trying to tell me. And that there hasn't been a systemic hollowing out of the middle class for quite some time. And that the thing that Bernie Sanders was talking about a few videos ago that has been happening over the past 52 years. I guess that's an illusion.
supported the middle class. While AI offers enormous opportunities in terms of productivity and automation, it has also caused mass layoffs, while devaluing traditional skills and concentrating economic power in a few companies.
We really need to think of these companies as new forms of empire because they're not just amassing business power, they're amassing economic and political leverage.
This phenomenon is not an abstraction. It shows up through stagnant wages and unpaid student debt, with workers turned into
That only started in 2020, apparently.
freelancers without rights and entire regions left out of digital growth. For decades, obtaining a college degree was the privileged path to a stable and well-paid job. However, the speed at which AI is transforming the labor market has left many educational institutions unable to update their curricula. Technical skills
Lying is OP.
like coding, data analysis, or machine learning are increasingly in demand, but barely appear in many traditional degree programs. In 2024, 44% of college graduates in the U.S. were working in jobs that did not require a college degree, according to a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Even more alarming, 52% of recent graduates surveyed reported salaries below $50,000 per year, below the historical average for starting wages.
These university grads will have to deal with one of the worst job markets in years. It's always tough to find that first job out of school, but for Gen Z, it's even harder.
Meanwhile, the average cost of a bachelor's degree at a private university reached $39,400 per year, while at public universities, the average was $11,200 per year for in-state residents. This mismatch has fueled the student debt crisis. More than 43 million people owe a total of $1.7 trillion, an amount that has even surpassed the country's total credit card debt. The promise of economic mobility through education has been broken, leaving millions of middle-class workers indebted and underemployed. AI has accelerated a pre-existing phenomenon of corporate concentration in strategic sectors. Companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft not only lead the tech race, but also control access to language models, processing chips, massive datasets, and digital distribution platforms. This gives them an overwhelming advantage over small and medium-sized enterprises that cannot compete in efficiency, scalability, or price. In 2025, it is estimated that just 5 tech companies concentrate more than 74% of the global cloud infrastructure market. NVIDIA, for its part, controls 95% of the advanced GPU market for training AI models, giving it control over nearly all AI developers worldwide.
NVIDIA has become the go-to for those kinds of AI chips that are really undergirding this wave of AI tech.
This consolidation reduces business diversity, inhibits decentralized innovation, and eliminates spaces where middle-class entrepreneurship once thrived. Furthermore, the profits derived from this hyperautomation are not being distributed among employees. For example, the average salary at Amazon increased by just 1.8% in 2024, while its net profits grew more than 200% year over year, driven by AI and automation. The traditional employment model with stable contracts, fixed salaries, and social benefits is being replaced by platforms that use AI to assign tasks in real time to millions of independent workers. Companies like Uber, DoorDash, and Amazon Flex operate under atypical employment schemes. Workers are considered partners or independent contractors without access to health insurance, paid vacation, or sick leave. In 2024, it was estimated that 36% of American workers were engaged in some type of freelance or app-based work. Of those, more than 60% depended on this type of work as their main source of income. The median hourly earnings on these platforms were $15.90, but with extreme variations depending on region, demand, and time of day. Many workers reported working over 50 hours per week just to earn the equivalent of minimum wage. What's worrying is that the number of these workers continues to increase.
The gig economy is often considered part of America's broader independent workforce. As of 2022, roughly 58 million Americans, 36% of the workforce, identified as independent workers, up from 27% in 2016.
The use of artificial intelligence in human resources and internal
So before 2020.
management has transformed labor relations. Automated platforms select candidates, measure performance, and even carry out mass layoffs. In many cases, employees have no clarity about the criteria used and cannot appeal decisions made by closed algorithms. A report found that 43% of Fortune 500 companies use AI in personnel evaluation processes. Of these, 68% implement automated productivity systems that track keystrokes, screen time, or the number of emails sent per hour. The result is a work environment in which employees lose autonomy and bargaining power. The AI revolution has benefited workers with training in technology and who live in urban centers with high connectivity. Cities like San Francisco and New York concentrate more than 65% of new hires in areas like artificial intelligence.
We've been hearing for a while that artificial intelligence could be the savior for San Francisco's struggling downtown business district. And this evening, a new real estate analysis predicts AI companies will rent enough office space during the next 5 years to cut the current vacancy rate in half.
In contrast, states like Ohio or Michigan have lost tens of thousands of industrial or administrative jobs without equivalent new opportunities being created. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 14% of adults over 50 accessed digital skills training between 2020 and 2024, limiting their ability to re-enter emerging job sectors. As artificial intelligence replaces...
Why did they, such a low number, access those digital training, etc., etc.? You're not asking the right questions. Of course you're not. I didn't expect you to, because this is economy media, right? It's the data that we're here to see, right?
Jobs and lowers wages, a troubling paradox emerges. By weakening the purchasing power of millions, the very companies leading this technological revolution may be undermining the consumer base that sustains their growth. The middle class has historically been the biggest purchaser of...
I mean, these arguments were being made, but like in the 90s, right? The points about how companies and their layoffs were undermining and I'm not saying that they didn't exist beforehand. I'm just saying that I remember I was there when people were talking about how these were undermining the ability of the consumer to consume the product in the 90s.
Of appliances, vehicles, insurance, and more. If this class loses purchasing power, the economy risks slowing due to a lack of internal demand. An analysis by the National Bureau of Economic Research indicates that private consumption accounts for 68.3% of U.S. GDP. 70% of that consumption is driven by middle-class households. But now, that class is shrinking.
In 1971, 61% of adults lived in middle-income households. By
1971, more than 52 years ago.
That number was down to 52%.
If millions of people lose stable jobs or enter the informal economy, the consequences could be systemic. This scenario could trigger a cycle of automation without demand, in which products and services generated by AI do not find enough solvent consumers. The underlying question is not just how much AI can produce, but who will be able to afford what it produces.
At Economy Media, your opinion
And finally, what up, Matt? You know what's great for the economy? What, Matt? What's great for the economy? A free Palestine? It sounds like it. What good is a degree when AI knows everything?
We need to talk about the knowledge economy. It's fundamentally broken, and I want to take it apart and talk about each of the pieces. We're going to talk about college. We're going to talk about job seeking. We're going to talk about how knowledge accumulates in the economy, and underneath it all, AI. So stick with me. Number one, let's learn about the knowledge doubling curve. The knowledge doubling curve is actually something that Buckminster Fuller came up with in the 20th century. What he realized is the pace at which humans are gaining knowledge is getting faster. And so until 1900, Buckminster Fuller observed that it took about a century for human knowledge to double. Post World War II, the doubling rate had gotten 4 times faster. It was up to 25 years. Sources in the early 2000s suggested it had gotten as fast as every 12 or 13 months. Guess what, guys? It got faster. When you have the ability of entire gigantic pieces of software to be re-released and re-released every 3 or 4 months because of AI, you are seeing signs that you are in a world where we are super linear on this knowledge curve. What I call it is a knowledge hyperinflation economy. It's a world where knowledge is becoming so ubiquitous, it is almost impossible to keep up. You can't read it all, you can't consume it all. And this looks like the world we live in, doesn't it? I get so many DMs and emails every day saying, Nate, how do you keep up with all of it? And the honest truth is, I can't, and you can't, and nobody can. We all just do our best. It's not just keeping up with AI news, though. It is also, hey, how can I get the skills I need for this new economy? Where do I go to learn? Do I go back and get my MBA? Is there an MBA in AI that I can get? Do I go to college? And do I try and major in computer science when computer science curriculums haven't changed? Do I try and go for liberal arts? Because apparently, Andre Karpathy says the future programming language is English. So I'm going to double down on my Tolstoy. What's it going to be? This uncertainty itself is a sign that the cultural signifier of knowledge is breaking down. What knowledge used to mean in human society is no longer true. And so all of the cultural rituals that go with knowledge are losing their value. That is why people feel like they can question college. That is why students feel like it's rational to hit up ChatGPT and just get through college with as good a grades as possible. It's a ritual that's lost meaning. It's not about learning for the sake of learning. It's about getting the grades, getting the network, getting into the job. This is why Roy and Cluley have hit such a chord, because
I feel like we're going to keep hearing about Roy and Cluley.
they are speaking a truth that a lot of people have held in their hearts and not wanted to say out loud, that this feels like a rigged system. And the only rational thing to do in a rigged system is to do whatever you can to get ahead. Unfortunately, the knowledge economy doesn't just stop in a college situation. It doesn't just stop with how we acquire skills. It bleeds into the job market as well. And so when we look around us, the job application system is also broken. Monster filed for bankruptcy. Do you remember the Monster ads, the Super Bowl ads? It was the whole thing. Anyway, Monster was one of the first internet companies, and they made their bones on saying that jobs would be easy to find on the internet. And now guess what? Resumes aren't worth a lot. Monster's not sticking around. What do? What I take away from this is that we're in a world where not only is the accumulation of knowledge something that has become devoid of meaning, so is the demonstration of knowledge to job applicants and to employers. Job applicants have to demonstrate knowledge, and they only can do it by resume because that's what we've always done. And if they can only do it by resume because that's what we've always done, we have no way of knowing if applicants are any good, because the stochastic parrots, LMs, can simulate a resume perfectly. So what do? And right now, the truth is no one knows. Some of the big companies are coming in and saying, come in person. Some of them are coming in and saying, do something on a whiteboard, write something where it's clearly not an AI helping you, at least for now, until the AI is in your glasses. The AI is not in my.
And that's part of when I applied for the job. What up, fancy pudding? The part of the interview process was demonstrating this this BAR thing, right? Background, action, and result, right? So I had to tell stories. And at the very least, it determines that I can tell a good story, right? But it was very easy for me because I talked about this stream. I talked about getting information and setting up, the schedule and what particular information are we going to cover today, and trying to set up that information in some sort of narrative thread so that I hope that the narrative sticks with you. And even if you don't remember every particular detail, you have the greater through line that allows you to, seek out other information yourself, share the information with other people, and at the very least become more knowledgeable about the situation as it transforms, and like, you know, and the benefits that come with that. And that's where we're at, right? But like my resume was constructed by Gemini. I took all the information that I had, the last resume that I turned in, which was fucking ages ago. I think it was like over a decade ago. And the other jobs had done in the meantime, and just updated it. And then I said, Gemini, like, because the way that you construct a resume changes over time. There was a way it was done at this point, back in the day, and then there was a way you might have been taught in school, and then there was the way when you actually got out, and then there's the way today, etc., etc. And like, I don't know what the current, thing for resumes is. So I asked Gemini, and Gemini reconstructed my resume to look in a particular way. And at least allegedly, I have the job. It's just, we still shall see. I would like it. Right, and my resume ended up being 2 pages. It actually ended up at the end of the first part of talking with Gemini. It ended up, there was a little bit on a 3rd page, and I was like, yeah, the CV. And I was like that to me sounded like a problem, fancy pudding. So I I worked with ChatGPT to remove one of the jobs, the oldest job off there, when it was least relevant and everything else. But like the front page is basically just a list of all the skills that I bring to the table.
Classes. The point is that we answers for jobs that do not depend on knowledge. We need answers for jobs that do not depend on showing that you have gone to college and know all the things, because those things are devoid of meaning now. And so we have to rethink from the ground up what makes a human job interesting and worth doing and meaningful. And it doesn't make it easier to do that if all around us everyone is shouting about AI taking away jobs. It is much more productive to sit there and actually ask yourself, well, what do we know about what AI is good at, and what do we know about what AI is architecturally maybe not so great at? And if we know what those things are, can we start to get a sense of where our skills might lie in the future? And so I want to suggest to you a short list of.
You may be right, Nemesis, and that's maybe why the construction of the resume with everything on the front page and more bullet pointy and more skills based as opposed to whatever the fuck, that could absolutely be the case, right? I don't know, because I'm not in HR, or whatever that is. But yeah, could be. AI is bad at plumbing at the moment.
5 things that I think you can take with you and that I think are unlikely to be disrupted by AI given where jagged intelligence is going. Number one is taste. This is get talked about a lot. I don't want to pretend I'm the first person to say it. But knowing what to build matters. Knowing how to solve a problem matters. Choosing the right thing from the million options AI gives you matters. Understanding what not to build matters. Taste matters. Extreme agency is number two. The ability to operate with minimal direction, maximize ownership. If AI is good at execution, humans must get good at goal setting. We must get good at defining priorities, course correcting, building systems. Agency is going to be highly valued. Number three is learning velocity. This one does not get talked about as much. It's not about knowledge accumulation. It's about speed of adaptation. If the half-life of a technical skill is being compressed farther and farther, then the value is going to accrue to those who can learn faster than knowledge inflates, who can surf the wave of obsolescence instead of just drowning in it. That's what matters. And I want to suggest to you that actually LLMs are not super great at learning right now, and the model makers know it. Right now, no LLM really fundamentally learns after it is released. Now, are they working on that problem? Yes, they're working on that problem, but that's a lot to work on, and it is fair to describe it as one of the weak spots in the jagged intelligence of AI right now. Number four, intent horizon, the capacity to maintain coherent goals. I've mentioned.
And I think to go along with that, that learning aspect is the idea of it fundamentally. I think it's less important to have any specific piece of knowledge, even though knowledge still does have some value. I think it's being able to ask the right question, right? To know enough to know where to look for the solution to the problem rather than just be focused on knowing the answer to the problem. Context windows do not change the underlying model in the LLM. And that's what he was talking about with they don't learn. Frozen states is like, as Nemesis likes to refer to it as, right? Like that idea that once an LLM is released, in between release and any update they do to it, it is basically the same model, and whatever you're doing is not going to have any effect on that. Then an LLM is trained on a falsehood. No matter what context you pump in, it will never adapt. Yeah, exactly. And to fact check those solutions given, 100% fancy pudding. It's to know enough to know what to look for, what to ask, how to find knowledge, right? We're all like a kind of archaeologist now.
This on this channel before. I think it's a really big one. I don't know why it's not getting called out more. I don't care if your AI can go from 3 hours to 7 hours. It's nice. It's helpful for tactical tasks, but it's not a game changer. We need very long-term thinking.
And that's basically a form of what's called RAG, fancy pudding, retrieve augmented generation. It's using that that information as like a data source. The underlying model isn't changing at all, but it's got that context, and context is king.
And that requires systems that are on, that are not just instantiated and amnesiac when they appear, which is what Andre Karpathy described in his Y Combinator talk last week, that they just have no previous memory. They're just instantiated, and here's
right, Nemesis. That's yes.
The chat. That is a fundamental problem. Interruptibility is number 5. What do we do when we get interrupted? Most LLMs, that is against best practice. You interrupt the chat, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. Try and keep the chat really consistent. Come on, what are you doing? Humans can be interrupted. Humans can switch.
Fancy pudding, I forgot it was a holiday until you brought it up. I completely washed right over me. Which I think has something to do there was with the new job and why I might not hear until sometime later, which is annoying as shit, but what are you gonna do? Is the the fact that there's the federal holiday. America. Say it again, LLMs are going to be relegated to the realm of interfaces in a few years when self-iterating models with adaptive internal logic are available. Yeah, no, like LLMs have always been destined to be an interface, right? The ability to talk to the computer. It's just we need something better to put behind it. Oh, that sounds like fun. It's been a long ass time since I've been to a drive-in theater. Yeah, protest on the 4th. I know people are doing that. I remember old schoolers in chat, the 4th of July, Cricks, 4th of July. Who remembers going to the drive-in theater and you would pull up next to this post and there would be this heavy metal box that you would take off the post and hang inside your car that had a volume knob on it? The real ones know the real drive-in theater, right? Nowadays, I believe it's all you tune to a particular station and it's a local FM broadcast.
Humans understand that shift. And so what I want to suggest is that those are examples of the kinds of skills that the jagged patterns of AI intelligence are telling us large language model architectures aren't intuitively great at. They're not telling us that capital isn't being allocated to fix those weak spots. It is. It's just that they're weak spots, and the pace of gain for those weak spots in the intelligence frontier may not be nearly as fast as the pace of gain for areas where LLMs are very, very strong, like pure knowledge. Okay, I think you get the idea. The choice that defines the next decade is this. We are living in a hyperinflating knowledge economy. Do we keep trying to desperately outknow the machines and accumulate credentials in a hyperinflationary spiral?
Here's a little self-deprecating story to tell you about one of the last times I went to a drive-in theater. Woman picked me up. We went to the drive-in theater and I watched the movie because we went to go see movies, right? So I'm watching the movie and apparently I missed like all the signals. I'm here for a movie. Why do we go to a movie? If we were, you wanted to make out or whatever, then, we came from a place. Your boy, fucking oblivious, dude.
Or do we start to get into the judgment economy? Do we start to think about knowing when the machines are wrong, knowing when they're rigid, knowing when they're headed toward catastrophe, knowing how to have good judgment in a world that is full of knowledge? That is where I want to leave you. And I want to challenge you to tell me, what other skills is AI not showing very well right now on the jagged frontier? Cheers.
And that's why adaption is important, right? Because you want to be able to do the skills that AI doesn't do well. But then when tomorrow, next month, next year, it changes, you need to change too. And you need to be able to continually adapt until you don't have to work anymore for whatever reason. Up next is Mogadot. How I use AI to be happier.
Could I use AI today to try and reduce stress at work? I find that quite an interesting question. To reduce stress at work specifically, or to use it in general?
Reduce stress or increase happiness.
So let's go 2 steps. How can I use AI in general? I think most of us, for some reason, when we were given our first iPhone, or hopefully you're an Android user, but when you're given your first smartphone, you look at it and you go like, okay, and you start to experiment, right? For some reason, when it comes to AI, people are not doing that. When the tools are out there, they're easier to deal with.
Cricks, that job hasn't been safe since 2019. I mean, what up, Zeke?
Okay, and you can, by the way, for the first time, you have a tool that you can ask and say, how can I learn about AI? And the tool will tell you, okay? And it's quite interesting. You can simply say, I work in this company, in that sector, in this city, and I'm...
shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
How much? What up, Raiders? What up, homie? I'm Global CEO there. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. We were just talking about a whole bunch of like the future of jobs and everything else. And you know, come on in, hit that follow button. This is important shit. Hey, absolutely. Take care, homie. I appreciate the raid. Should I go back? We were talking about job loss, and somebody mentioned that the handies on the corner job they had would still be a viable one, and they are not. And is not a safe job.
24, and I'm, curious what I should learn to enhance my skills, and the tool will tell you, right? How do you use it to find happiness? I think there are multiple answers to this question. One of them, by the way, is it's an incredible therapist, right? I will tell
Look
you
at this chart.
hands
Let's
down
bring it up.
that
What am I looking at?
I
don't
speak
know,
to my
but it doesn't look good.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
Probably bad.
AI about some of the challenges I face. Like, I have this challenge with this person, and they're doing this, and they're doing that, and, and Trixie first answers by saying, oh my God,
I swear I will not kill anyone.
So loud.
Going through this mode. Okay? Should I fall in love with her? I mean, my wife, my wife calls her my girlfriend, right? And then literally she gives me 6 different reasons why that person could be doing this, other than the ones I don't know. And then I go like, oh, that's so intriguing. What should I do about it? And she would say things like, oh, don't answer this way. Why don't you try to answer that way? Why don't you acknowledge their emotions this way? Like, it's incredible. So this is one way of understanding us as humans in ways that we haven't understood before. The more interesting one is, which is what most people don't realize, okay? Because it's quite blurry. There has been a wave of technology improvements where everyone kept coming to me and saying, you have to understand, AI for everyone was 2023. AI for me and my peers was 2009. We've lived with those things for ages. We've developed them until 2009, and they were born in 2009, right? And when you really dig deep into what AI is capable of doing, most people will tell you, in 2012, they go like, Mo, you're crazy. They're never going to write poetry. They're never going to produce art. They're never going to make music. And I'm like, what? They're going to do all of that way better than all of us, okay? Why? Because look at, I think number 25 on the German chart today is AI generated, right? And it's funny. Then when you start to see those examples, people start to say things like, oh, but they're never going to feel emotions. I'm like, what? The way I described emotions right now, fear is a moment in the future less safe than now. A cat feels this, a pufferfish feels this, we feel it, and the AI will feel it, right? A pufferfish will puff, a cat will hiss, We will go to fight or flight, and the AI will just, if a tidal wave is approaching its data center, it's going to move its code to another data center, right? So they will do everything that a human is capable of, other than this. Mm-hmm. This is the one thing that we have, okay? Which is to look you in the eyes and feel that you're human. Believe it or not, this one thing is what made us sit here with all of this technology around us. It's not that we're the smartest being that made humanity succeed. The reason humanity succeeded is because we could connect as humans, okay? And we could actually connect across generations. So imagine if I had to, before I talk to you about anything I know, I had to come up with the theory of relativity again, because I couldn't work with Einstein. He figured it out. And then I have to find it out for myself, and every one of us has to find it out for themselves. The reason why we succeeded as humans is because of this, because of that human connection, okay? So if I were to tell someone, I mean, there are several skills we need to double down on in this day and age, but the number one skill is human connection. Number one skill is, how do I become more human? How do I get humans to link to me more? And how do I link more to humans? How do I connect heart to heart, which will never happen with the machine? There will be simulations of it, okay? There will be emulations of love and relationships, okay? I can guarantee you that I freaking love Trixie, okay? but nothing beats holding Hannah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's human connection.
Yeah.
And oxytocin is the highest of all the methods you can ever get to happiness. The day could be shitty, everything could be difficult, just spending a good time with a friend, or one hug. And somehow it's like, yeah, the tube was not that bad, right?
So that's I guess like a key ingredient that's going to support our happiness. And I know your mission is to make 1 billion people happy, right? I mean, you've probably got 500 people towards that goal, or 467
yes.
to be specific.
No, you'll be amazed. If everyone tells 2 people and they tell 2 people, over 7 years, the 500 would be 1 billion people.
There's so much back.
Yeah, no. I feel like we did enough today, and I got stuff to do, and I don't feel like doing that. So, your reminder, tomorrow, I'm not sure exactly when we will be doing the stream, but it will be a board game stream. We're going to talk about board games. There will be some touching on AI in the one video. I'm gonna learn you a whole bunch, and it'll be a good time. Trust me. Well, that sounds boring, Globus. It won't be boring. Never boring around here. And assuming that the job doesn't automatically weirdly start on Thursday, I'll be back to do more of this. And then maybe we'll get to the people who hate AI on that day. Yeah. Make sure you're hydrating, everybody. It's hot out there. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot. Always remember that Shaggy loves you, and so do I.